one just started college. She was in high school when she first stood up. 3 high school girls, 3 teenagers who are pushing back. 2 of them in one of the bluest states in the country, in Oregon. 1 in another very blue state, my state, Colorado. So I want to introduce you to these 3 young ladies who are all fighting for the protection of women's sports. Are you ready? Alexa Anderson, come on out. Sophia. Alexa, Sophia, and Maddie from my home state of Colorado. Ooh, this chair is deep. Okay, I want to start, because you guys might not know these girls. Do you know any of them? You're going to know their stories, I think, once they introduce themselves. Alexa Anderson is from Oregon, and she famously, her senior year, at a state track championship meet, turned her back on the podium because she refused to share it with a boy who had competed in girls' track and field, essentially. Now, not only did she turn her back, but when she did, she was ushered off of the, I don't want to say field, basically out of the space. I mean, essentially, this is one of the things I find most damaging about this whole situation. If a young girl, these girls are all teenagers, if they dare to stand up for themselves, which is what we've wanted our daughters to do for generations, right? They are told to be quiet, to go away, and to let the boys have what they want. That is not how I'm raising my daughter, and I know it's not how you're raising yours. So I want to know, Alexa, what made you do it? Did you think of it in real time? Had you planned it? Was it just like, I'm not going to get up there and share the podium? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, in that moment, I knew that I didn't want to just stand there and say that this is okay, that all of us girls out there are okay with the lack of protections in women's sports, because I know myself, as well as many of the other girls out there, including Sophia, who was at that meet, were not okay with the circumstances imposed. So I decided I'm going to step off the podium. I'm going to let the people in charge know that us girls, the ones affected by their laws, are not okay with this, and we want change.
And you were 18 at the time?
Yes, I was 18.
Yeah, I want to tell you, I get emails every day from grown adult human beings who tell me, I love your brand, but I'm too afraid to wear it in my community, in my blue state, in my blue town. And I say, look at what Alexa did. Look at what Frances Stout did, a young woman in Washington. Look at what 2 Sophias in Oregon did. I only have 1 Sophia here today. If these young girls can screw up their courage to do it, then I know we adults can stand with them and do it also. I love the video of you turning your back. It's so amazing. Okay, Sophia, what's your sport?
I do track and field.
What events?
I do high jump. That's my main event. I also run the 400. It's terrible.
So a lot of people, and here's the thing, and I want to tell you, both Alexa and Sophia are winners of our most recent Courage Wins Award from XXXY Athletics. We gave 9 out just a few days ago. It's the most we've ever given. We gave them out on 10/10 because I think in this era when free speech is more under attack than ever, we want to reward young people who are using their voices and standing up and pushing back for the protection of not only their own sports, but their own privacy and safety. And I think their courage is so inspiring. And every time you buy anything from XXXY, a portion of the funds go to support the Courage Wins Award. So just keep that in mind. And put all the other athletic brands aside, because they are not supporting women and girls. They are not empowering women and girls. But a lot of people say you should stand down and not compete. You hear that all the time, right? And I support that. If that can have a real impact. If you guys remember Stephanie Turner, the fencer who took a knee, I mean, that was incredibly impactful. You've chosen to compete anyway, right? So how do you balance, or why did you decide that that was the right path? You're speaking up, but you're choosing to still compete. How do you balance those 2 things to protect your athletic future? Because you're hoping to run in college.
Yeah, I think I showed up to the state meet knowing that I'd be competing against a trans athlete, and I prepared as best as I could. I prayed about it. I tried to prepare myself mentally, And honestly, I just broke down on the field. There's nothing you can do to prep yourself for a situation like that. And I lost the mental game, and I didn't compete well, and it got in my head, and it was just so hard. But, thank you to America First Policy Institute, who is helping me sue the state of Oregon over this issue. My amazing lawyers, they said, you need to compete anyway. You need to compete anyway. I came into the competition ranked higher than the trans athlete. I like to flex that. And so they said, I back you regardless of what you do. And that's what my family said. And I competed, and I didn't compete well, but I'm proud of what I did because I was showing that I was not afraid to compete regardless.
And you guys are part of a lawsuit. Alexa, tell us a little bit about the lawsuit.
Yeah, so there are 2 different lawsuits going on in Oregon right now. We currently have one over Title IX violations, where the state of Oregon has violated our Title IX rights. But then we also have a First Amendment lawsuit where Reese and I, the 2 that stepped off the podium, we were ushered out of the way. We were kind of shut down for using our First Amendment right to free speech and freedom of protest. And we also never received our medals from that meet, which was kind of seen as a punishment by the OSAA for standing up. And
that's a government body. I mean, they're part of the Oregon state government. So why it's a First Amendment issue. Okay, Maddie. Maddie is from Colorado, about an hour away from where I live. We met maybe a year and a half ago, not long after I launched the brand. You were put in a position at only 14 years old where you had to wrestle against a male athlete. Correct? Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it started with walking into the tournament. It was a boys and girls tournament combined, but separate. So our whole team, when we walked in, almost our eyes were glued to that, asking is that a female, a male, what is it? But whoever it is, the good luck. And then we found out I'm wrestling the biological male. And at the time, I didn't even know that that the person was a biological male. But I was just in disbelief. I didn't even know how to do it. There was this, twice my size almost, huge. I felt so weak and powerless, and I haven't been wrestling. I don't know what I'm doing. And it was also fast too. I didn't know what happened or what I was doing. It was I was a first time wrestling against someone who has wrestled for ages. So
it's just the humiliation that is being forced upon these young girls and women. It's astonishing to me. What happened to You Go Girl and, girls empowerment, and all of a sudden, if you dare stand up in your own defense to prevent boys from stealing your rightful opportunities, your privacy, and your safety. I mean, wrestling does it count as a combat sport? Yeah, I mean, it's certainly full contact. Then you are deemed hopelessly, racist and homophobic and transphobic and all the bigoted things. And you have to just ignore the names. I know you guys know this. It takes a moment sometimes to get past that, but you have to ignore it because it's ridiculous. Everything about it is ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to come back to you, Alexa. You live in a deep, deep blue state. My understanding is your family is sort of more democratically aligned. Is that correct? Members of your family? Wrong?
We're pretty moderate. I mean,
Okay.
we go either way depending on the issue, yeah.
What is it like, though? And I mean, I say this as someone who was long member of the Democrat Party, but not for a while now. Lived in San Francisco for 35 years, so you know what that is like. What is it like? I mean, the states where this is happening are where girls are pushing back are the states where boys are competing in girls' sports. So those are the bluest states, right? Because those are the ones that are ignoring the laws. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, despite the fact that on his own podcast back in April with Charlie, he said it's not fair or safe for boys to compete in girls' sports. He's now suing the federal government to what? To continue to allow boys to compete in girls' sports, which is insane. What is it like in a deep blue state like Oregon? And did you find you had support from your friends, or did you find you had to sort of just deal with the fact that you didn't? What's that like?
Yeah, we definitely had very mixed responses. I mean, I'm so thankful for people like my family and friends who have stood by me this entire time, so thank you to them. But there's definitely been a lot of mixed responses and a lot of people who are so quick to jump to the fact of, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, when really this is nothing about that. I think, in my mind, this is just about biological reality and the fact that biological men and women are not built the same, and it is not fair to allow them into the same sports for fairness, for safety, and many other things. So we've had mixed responses, but I'm thankful to everyone who's supportive.
Let me ask you something while I'm with you, and we keep getting a little more time, so I'm going to take my time. What would you say to one of the adults that writes to me? What would you have me say to that person when they say, I love your brand, I love everything it stands for, I of course believe in the material reality of the fact that there are two sexes, but I'm too afraid to wear your t-shirt? What would you say to someone like that?
I would tell them to not be scared to stand up for what you believe in, that if you feel passionate about something, it is your job to stand up there and let everybody know how you feel. Don't be scared of the people who are going to disagree, because no matter what, people are going to disagree with you. Nobody ever sees eye to eye on everything. So stand up for what you believe in and fight your fight.
Isn't it amazing that a teenager knows that? And, most people, I think we all know this, most people would rather stand with the safety of the crowd than stand apart to do the right thing. They would. And yet, there are a few brave souls that always stand up and do the right thing, and they bring others along. And that's the role you all play, I think, here in this room as well. And we can do it with kindness, and we can be direct and fact-based. And I'll tell you a little story about a conversation I had recently at my daughter's soccer game in a bit to wrap up. But, we don't have to be disrespectful or rude. We have reality on our side. We have the facts on our side, but we won't cower, and we won't back down, and we won't be bullied. Sophia, what has it been like to find community? There's how many other athletes are in the lawsuits with you? 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think there's 3 others in my lawsuit.
So, and you are sort of, whether you know them all or not, connected with all of the other young women across this country, young women like Maddie, and there's, a host of athletes in California now who are suing the state to protect their Title IX violations because of the Jurupa Valley High School situation. What is it like? What has it meant to you to find that community and other young women across the country?
It's been so powerful. I think, if you had told me that I would be here a year ago, I would have said that's crazy. I never would have believed it. I never would have thought, we'd get to this point where biological men are competing with women and it is perfectly normal and accepted. That's insane to me. Sometimes I just think wow, how did we even get here? But it's been so encouraging to have the community of Maddie and Alexa and Jennifer Say. I got to meet Riley Gaines. That was so special. And also just when America First Policy Institute reached out and said, hey, would you like to sue? We're going to back you. We're going to help you. That was so encouraging to me, knowing there are people who have so much power and poise to gracefully lawsuit in a respectful way, not against an athlete because I hold a grudge against this boy, but for justice and truth overall. So that's just been very cool to see that. And it's hard, but I'm so grateful for all the friends I've made along the way.
I tell people all the time, support those who are willing to stick their necks out. It means more than you know. For every nasty, horrible email or DM I get at least one kind one that is encouraging me to keep going. And even the people that are really well known, I have to tell you, it means a lot. I mean, Riley and I have talked about this a ton, and she's obviously more known than me, and it still just means a lot. So do it. Just shoot a note off. Write a DM. Thank you for what you're doing. It means a lot. It helps keep me going. It really means a lot. I think it means a lot to the girls. It certainly means a lot to me. Maddie, you spoke at a school board meeting about a year and a half ago. Is that right? Okay, tell me what inspired you to do that, and what did you say? What was that whole experience like? How did that feel? You're so young. How did you screw up your courage to do that?
Well, over everything, I knew that it was something I needed to do. It was something that I could do for God, for myself, for all the other female athletes like me. I knew that this was something I could do, but I was over beyond nervous like I am right now. But I also was confused on why would people be against me? Because there were protesters, people who were supporting me, people who weren't. And I was so confused on why would people be against me when I am speaking the truth. And I speak no hate. I show no hate. But I speak the truth, and I will continue for everyone, for all the girls, because this is important. The fight is not over, and I will continue speaking for everyone.
These young women, I know I keep harping on this point, but two of the bluest states in the country, and they stand up and stand apart from their peers, from their teachers, possibly from their coaches every single day to do the right thing and fight for material reality. Let them be your guide. They are such an inspiration. I find myself floored every day that these young teenagers have the courage that many adults can't seem to summon. 80% of Americans agree with us that women's sports are for women only. It should be 100, but 80% agree. I mean, I don't know what the other 20% are doing. Half of them will come around too. 80% agree, but I will tell you the vast majority are silent still. And that's how I know we still have work to do. If 80% of them are silent, we are suffering under the tyranny of the minority. They are loud and bullying and angry, and they don't make any sense. Their argument holds no water. It has no logic. It will collapse upon itself. But we need the majority to stand up and say it. And since you guys are already willing to do it, if just because you're wearing a Moms for Liberty t-shirt or you're wearing our t-shirt, you're already making a statement, your job is to go into your communities and get all the people that agree with you to say it too. That's your job, okay? Because we need to change the culture, and when we change the culture, the laws will change. Okay, so I'm going to ask a self-serving question. I'm springing this one on you, so if you don't feel comfortable, it's fine. What does it mean to you that there actually is a brand that is standing up for this position? Like, do you think that makes a difference in the culture?
I think it makes a huge difference. I mean, when I first saw these t-shirts, it was at State. Sophia and Reese were wearing them. I looked at them and I was like, oh my gosh, where'd you get this t-shirt? Like, this is amazing. It says XXXY, Save Women's Sports across the front. I thought it was amazing. I wanted to share that. Several of us held them up as they were introducing us, just sharing our message. And it is so inspiring to have a whole brand that's dedicated to this issue and is standing behind us. So thank you for everything you've done.
Well, you know what? We can't let the other side have all the cultural points. Why not? Why? We need some points on the board. We need brands and music and films, and you need to support these companies that are putting product into the market that support your values. I looked around. I'm a brand person. I create content. I've written books. I've made movies. I'm like, why are we letting the other side do all the cultural influencing? And we're over here just, working on legislation, which is great. But the fact is the facts do care about your feelings. I'm sorry, they do. And so we need to change hearts and minds. I think a brand can absolutely can be part of it. What are you hoping for in college? I'm switching it up. I'm just doing my best Oprah impression. You're a senior. Okay, what are you hoping to run in college and where?
I don't know. I'm looking at a lot of schools right now. On all my applications, I put that I am an activist for this issue because I was like, if they reject me, I don't want to go there.
Good girl.
I was unsure about if I wanted to go to a state school or a bigger school. So I was looking at Oregon State University, and I was like, oh, wait, they have a TPUSA chapter. I'm joining. If I go to OSU, I'm going to join. That sounds awesome.
Good for you. Maddie, what year are you, and when's your college looking start, and where are you hoping to go?
Well, I'm a junior right now. I have so many pathways that I
You
could
don't have to go to college. Sorry, I don't mean to force that on anyone. It's not the right solution for anyone. Are you hoping to go to college?
Definitely, yeah. But I'm also looking into going into the military and the National
Awesome.
Guard. So
Awesome. Okay, I want to just tell you a quick story, and then you're going to give these girls another round of applause. So this story I tell a lot now. It sort of encapsulates why I started the brand. So I wear the product all the time. Obviously, it's my company. I wear it all around Colorado. But sometimes I don't feel, sometimes I don't really feel like it. I don't feel like being harassed and having those conversations. But I tell everybody else to have them all the time. So I need to put my money where my mouth is. So I'm at my daughter's soccer practice one night. I had something on, but it was kind of subtle. But my daughter, who's 8, was wearing that shirt. She was wearing that, not that subtle, right? She was wearing that shirt for soccer practice. And one of the moms who I'd known for a few years comes marching over to me. This is about a year ago. And I was like, oh, goodness, it's happening. It's happening with someone I know, not a stranger. It's happening. And she said, I don't know if you know what that T-shirt means. Obviously, she didn't know that. I'm sure she went home and Googled and was like, oh, goodness, that woman is terrible. That person I thought I liked. See, we're nice, right? She thought she liked me. It blew her mind. Anyway, she said, I don't know if you know what that means. I said, I do know what it means. She says, well, it's very offensive. And I said, biological reality is not offensive, and I believe very strongly that girls need their own sports. The conversation went on for 10 minutes because she kept saying all the cliches and the tropes. This is going to mean genital checks for our daughters. And I said, it isn't. Where's the memo they get? I don't understand. Anyway, she sort of gave up at the end because I didn't back down. They're used to people backing down. She said, I was very nice and calm and just cited facts. And she said, well, we can agree that we both care about girls. Yeah, well, and she said, I just care about all the girls. And I said, you mean the ones that are boys? But I was very nice and I smiled, and it ended, and she realized I wasn't going to back down. And she said, well, I trust that you will not have your daughter wear the T-shirt anymore to soccer practice. And I said, well, no, I can't do that. You would be wrong about that. And I went home, and at the next soccer practice, brought T-shirts for all the parents that I knew agreed with me. So be kind, come armed with facts, have those hard conversations. I believe in my heart of heart, it is those one-on-one conversations every day with people in your community that are going to make the difference. They really are. So you go out there and do that and wear the T-shirt. It always provokes a conversation. Please give these girls a giant round of applause. They are the bravest among us.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. Today, we are taking a deep dive into what just happened in Virginia. a state that's been a bellwether for a long time. We saw the results this last week. They weren't great. They weren't great for the GOP. Conservatives that had some hope felt very disappointed, because I think even though we knew that the race for governor was a long shot, there was hope, but we thought at the very least Lee Jones, the AG, would lose, and he won. And that was probably my biggest surprise. But there were also a loss of some statewide races, some legislative seats, and local contests. There was a big flip from 2-seat majority Democrats to a pretty strong majority of Democrats in the House of Delegates. Joining me today are two powerhouse voices who live and breathe Virginia politics. They live in Virginia, and they are outspoken in their, in support for what we value, parental rights and protection of children. And so I wanted them to come and do the talking today and tell us their opinions about what happened in Virginia and what we should read into and what we might be reading into too broadly. So joining me are my friends Lydia Schaffer, who is with Turning Point. She's a Turning Point ambassador, and she has an amazing Instagram following. She's otherwise known as Conservative Barbie 2.0. And my friend Terry Schilling, who is the president of American Principles Project, an amazing organization who is doing so much for us. They're on the front lines. I met Terry a few years ago, and I see him all the time. He's like, "You're always doing something." When he's not having children, he is not having children, but they are not raising their wonderful, amazing family. He is out there fighting for other people's children. So thank you both for coming on. Terry, I'll start with you, because I talked to you right before the election results came in. You weren't too optimistic, and I thought, oh, he's on to something here. So why don't you tell us what you saw happening in Virginia and your thoughts?
Well, thanks so much, Scarlett. And I see you just as many places, and so that means that we're both just on the job all the time. Look, I think what happened in Virginia is both simple and complex. The simple is that as a historical data point, had Winsome Sears won in Virginia, she would have been the second candidate in over 50 years to have won the election after her party had taken the White House. It is very odd to see the same party take the governor's mansion in Virginia after they had just taken the White House in DC. These races in both New Jersey and Virginia are typically pushbacks to the previous party that won the last presidential election. So the history was against us. But secondarily, I think where it gets complex is that Winsome ran a very strong campaign on parental rights, on protecting our children, on attacking Democrats for their extremism, specifically on the transgender issue. However, I think she put too many eggs in just one basket. Right? If you look at the broader message, there wasn't a lot to work with. She wants to get rid of the car tax. I would love to get rid of the car tax here in Virginia. A lot of people don't know. I know you have a national show, but in Virginia, we have to pay a 5% tax on the value of our car every year. It's terrible. People with minivans, which are very expensive these days, we get hurt really badly with it. But it's how our government's funded at the local level. So there's just a lot of problems there. But I think at the most basic level, we need to do a better job of not distancing ourselves from President Trump and the Make America Great Again agenda. If you look at where Winsome was hurt the most, it was with the low propensity Trump voters, the rural part of the state. Almost every part of the state went more blue. You see those maps with the arrows going, and it's almost all blue all across the state. So we need to do a better job of talking about the economic relief that we're going to provide to working families. We need to do a better job of talking about how we're going to get these Gen Zers and millennials back into the economy. I think this was bad luck, but also we need to do a better job going into the midterms if we're going to avoid losses like this.
I lived in Virginia for 6 years, and it was the first time I had ever had to pay a car tax. It is yeah, it is ridiculous. So that tax. So, Lydia, your thoughts about the election? I know that you were commenting on it a lot on your Instagram post. You are a mom who lives near the Virginia Beach area. Your dad, it was born in Virginia. You know, you've got deep roots there. What are your thoughts about the results?
Well, I'll have to tell you, I mean, I wasn't shocked that Spanberger won. I was shocked that Jay Jones won. I was absolutely shocked about that. But I agree with Terry that we need to align more with President Trump. I think that we need to stand strong with him. And I also think that Virginia's loss wasn't because of bad candidates or bad values. I mean, our candidates ran really strong races. I think what happened is simply that the state has changed faster than the Republican Party has kept up. Modern voters live online, demographics are shifting, families are looking for leaders who meet them right where they are. And this isn't about blame, it's about opportunity. We have the right message, we just need to modernize how we deliver it so that we can reach parents, families, and new communities all across Virginia.
So you would say that what was the funding discrepancy between, let's say, just the top candidates? You know, the governor's race. I mean, it was pretty large, wasn't it?
It was. And I feel like we in Virginia could possibly just modernize the way that we are reaching people. You know, I think that basically maybe just, I feel like we're kind of still living in 2004. I feel like if we could maybe bring it back to, I don't, just getting with the times, even bringing our messaging more online, meet people where they are ultimately.
Is that your impression, Terry, too? Were there ad buys online? Were they utilizing social media? Were they trying to find, I know at the end we saw a huge turning point come in. We had Scott Presler. Was that just too late? Should that effort have started earlier?
No, look, the Scott Presler and the Turning Point crew, they were pretty on top of this race. They had been out on the knocking doors for quite some time. Like, they didn't get into this late. I think they were doing doors and stuff as early as July, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong about that. But I really do think that, you know, okay, just basic, you know, conversation. What was Abigail Spanberger running to do? Well, she was running to get the government back opened up. She was running against the insane Trump agenda. She was running to stop Trump and all of his tyrannical, you know, oppressive regime that he was pushing on Virginians and hurting us every single day. Why vote for Winsome? Well, she's going to get boys out of our girls' sports. That's great. She's going to get boys out of the girls' locker rooms and showers. That's great. But what else beyond that, right? And I think we have to remember that the electorate is complex and sometimes complicated even, but there are different voters for different things. You know, some voters care about pro-life, some voters care about the cost of living, some voters care about housing, some voters care about traffic, right? There are all different things that you need to be speaking to voters on the campaign trail. And I actually think that that is one thing that President Trump did fantastically in 2024. He didn't just have, you know, an economic message for working class people. He didn't just have a culture war agenda for the families like us. He had an agenda for the Make America Healthy Again, right? I think that Make America Healthy Again agenda was incredibly popular and incredibly important to his victory, and obviously important for our country and getting us healthy again. But you have to have a diverse message that speaks to several different parts of your electorate if you're going to win. You can't, like I said earlier, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. It's not going to be enough. And by the way, I basically pioneered the whole idea of doing campaign ads on women's sports at APP. We did the ads in 2019. I'm a huge believer in them, but they work on the margin, right? They move 3 to 5 points of the electorate. They don't work, they don't shift 8 points. They don't shift 10 points, 12 points. You have to have an economic message that shifts voters to your columns. You have to have a cultural message that shifts voters to your columns. And you have to have a diverse message that brings more independents, more swing voters, and even some Democrats over to your column. Otherwise, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I think that we have to hear the hard truths. Otherwise, if we don't learn from what happened right in this election, we won't be able to win the next one in 2026. So we have to be real. We can't just blow it off. We can't just think like it's not just about money. Yeah, it would be great if there was more money, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. I do think that it's an interesting, because usually the GOP has leaned too heavily into an economic message, and now we're saying that maybe they didn't focus on it enough. But maybe it's also more than that. Instead of I'm going to cut your taxes, like really making a compelling story, telling a story like Trump did, talking to people where they're at and making them feel like you hear them. And I think that it's a unique thing. Trump is just such a unique phenomenon. And I worry when he's not on the ticket, what happens if we don't start to really shift the way that we do politics as far as conservatives.
Can I speak to that real quick, Scarlett? Because one thing that was just glaring to me on election night, Winsome had a history. Look, I love her. We endorse her. We spent over $1 million to support her. I wanted her to win. But one thing that bothered me was that Winsome had previously attacked Trump, said bad things about him. She endorsed DeSantis. If you look at the 2024 election results, President Trump got over 2 million votes in Virginia, right? Winsome came up at, I think, just a little bit over 1.3. That was a 700,000 vote gap that she could have dug into to get turnout to where she needed it to, but she could only do that by tapping into the voters that voted for President Trump. And by the way, Virginia is a Democrat state. I mean, when you're voting by 5 points for Kamala Harris, that's a pretty Democrat state. She was basically brain dead. And they had voted for Joe Biden in 2020 by over 10 points. This is a solid Democrat state, but there were still enough Trump voters out there. If you just turned them out and had a compelling message, she could have won. But again, you need the money for that.
Lydia, do you think that the parents and the grandparents and community members that agreed with Winsome, hey, we don't want boys in women's sports, do you think they turned out? Because I don't think that they turned out enough. Do you think that
I think that's
they just didn't turn out?
Yeah, that I think that's my something clearly went wrong here. And so I've basically just been trying to figure out specifically what that was. And I think you might have hit the nail on the head. Why didn't they show up? Why didn't people show up? I know many who did, but the numbers don't lie. I mean, so many did not. And that's the frustrating part. So I think if we can really get to the root of what went wrong, and as we move forward as a party here in Virginia, we can really identify that and try to focus on it and turn out better for midterms.
Glenn Youngkin, by the way, got 1.6 million votes. That's 300,000 more than Winsome. I'm just going to pull up the election results because I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. In the chat, I'll bring it up if you can't. I was actually looking for some. I love looking at the results. I had looked at them before. I mean, you've got that kind of swing, the House of Delegates, and every local race too. It was just, my gosh, it was a. You know how they say it's a murder. It's a murder. It was pretty decisive. And I mean, you cannot forget, as a political scientist, and Terry, you know this, we cannot forget that typically when in these kinds of elections and in Virginia, it's rare that the party in power, if the party in power is, Republicans, it's rare that a year later, everyone is going to go ahead and go vote Republican again. Usually these things kind of flip based on the party in power. So it's not like out of the realm of possibility that that just happens, that people think I'm upset about the tariff or I'm upset about this or that. I'm not going to vote, so that I'm going to stay home. So there could be that could be a factor. The government was shut down. How many people that work for the federal government live in Virginia and maybe they're upset about the shutdown and they don't show up? I don't think that accounts for this large of a loss, but it certainly plays a part. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, and if you look, I just pulled this up. So Terry McAuliffe in 2021. Keep in mind, Biden had just won the previous election in 2020. Terry McAuliffe got 1,599,000 votes. Glenn Youngkin barely won. But if you look at the Terry McAuliffe's 1.599 million votes, Abigail Spanberger got almost 2 million votes, right? So the Democrats were depressed turnout in 2021. And they obviously had more energized and vibrant turnout in 2025. And it makes sense because they're under pressure, they're under siege. It's easier, it's a lot. Your job when you're tearing things down and you're the insurgent coming up and attacking is a lot easier than when you're governing. It's just the nature of leadership. It's a lot harder to lead than it is to knock something down.
Do you think people get comfortable with the fact that Trump is in office too? And maybe they just feel comfortable and they think that, we have Trump, we're fine. They don't feel that
Lydia,
urgent.
I think that, yes. And if you look at how Trump came out of the gate, right? I talked to my wife a lot about politics, and we actually met on the campaign trail. And she said something very smart to me that really made me think, which was she thinks that voters in Virginia and all across the country saw everything that President Trump was doing on the transgender fight to protect our children and get this stuff out of our schools. And they thought, this is solved. This is over. We don't need to address it. So putting all of your eggs in that basket probably wasn't the right call. You still need to talk about the threats, because Spanberger is going to reverse everything that Glenn Youngkin did. She's going to fight President Trump and everything that he's done to protect our children. However, you need to make that argument, but you can't. A lot of voters don't think it's a problem. It's not like where we were in 2021, where kids were dudes in dresses in the girls' room were sexually assaulting, women in schools and then covering them up in Loudoun County like we saw. So yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that people just didn't have the urgency because they think President Trump has solved a lot of these problems.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't understand. I mean, not everyone, but some. I think that they think that, Trump can fix it all. And I don't think they realize so much is done at the state level and at the local level. And so I think that could have been part of the issue as well.
So I'm looking at some different results, like showing the results, comparing them with 2024, 2021. And the shifts are pretty clear, especially 2024 to 2025. A lot of the demographics that Trump had won, all those gains were not only, it didn't just even out, there were losses, flips in young men, flips in turnout, where there was 81% turnout, you see 49% turnout. And if you look at New Jersey, though, and you see that it really kind of mirrors Chitterelli, and Chitterelli was very aligned with Trump. So I think you can kind of see that there's overall, I think, the economy. I would say, just from looking at the economy, weighed heavy as people went to vote. Concern that, I mean, the Democrats, first of all, had a lot of money to put in for that messaging, but overall, kind of concern, inflation's high, groceries are high. Will I be able to sell my house? Will I be able to buy a house? How am I going to afford college? These are issues that I know those of us in the grassroots have been kind of beating the drum, like, hey, we've got to address these issues. These are really important. Don't dismiss these. And I think that the results make it clear that these are issues that we must talk about. But how do you balance that with how hard it is for Trump right now? He can't wave a magic wand. What happened over Biden took a long period of time. COVID happened. Turning this around is going to take some time. So I'm just throwing it out there. What do you guys think about?
Well, I think if we see everything going on, Trump is doing the best he can. I mean, he's talking about doing $2,000 stimulus checks to put back into the economy. So, I mean, if you're watching, he's doing everything that he can. And like you said, he can't just wave a magic wand. He really stepped into a lot after COVID and Biden. And I think it's incredible to see what he's done already.
Yeah, I agree with Lydia on this. I think that, if we're being honest and real, President Trump really did inherit not just Biden's mess, but he inherited Obama's mess before that. And if you look at the whole shutdown debacle, it was all over the ACA subsidies. Now, I'm old enough to remember in 2008 when President Obama campaigned on Obamacare. His whole goal was to make health insurance more affordable. It's not affordable. It's gotten much worse. It only is affordable if the government is heavily subsidizing it. It is a failure. It was never meant to succeed. It was meant to actually get us into single payer healthcare. It's meant to balloon the system with mandates for coverage and then also subsidies to where things like this happen and Democrats have more leverage points to control the economy. But look, I think we need to think quickly. I think the Trump administration needs to figure out how they're going to address the unaffordability crisis that Americans are suffering from, especially these next generations, because we haven't even talked about Mamdani and how a communist Islamist won mayor of New York City. And if you go back to 2001 and you told anyone after 9/11 that a communist Muslim was going to be elected mayor of New York, they would have laughed at you. You could have won a 1,000,000 to 1 bet that day if you placed that. But we have to address, Mamdani was speaking about housing unaffordability. That was like all he talked about. We need to figure out how we can get young people into home ownership again, because the housing prices are way too high. The mortgage rates are way too high. Kids can't start families, which is the biggest motivator. Like if you look at why people make more money, why they achieve more, it's because they have families that they have to provide for. That's like the biggest motivating factor for anyone. It's very rare where you see two married people or even a single person that are thriving successfully by being single and not having children. Most successful people have at least 1 or 2 children. So we need to figure out how to get people, these younger generations, back into the economy and actually participating in it. Otherwise, we're going to get more Mamdanis.
I'm glad you used the term affordability because I'm reading from the NPR, and it's always good to read from other organizations that they don't agree with you. You got to hear what the other side is hearing. And a quote, Spanberger, who served in the CIA before running for Congress in 2018, has cultivated a reputation as a pragmatic centrist. Now, we all know that's not true, but this is the messaging that was put out there by the mainstream media. She's a centrist. I heard that a lot from my friends who are in Virginia. They were so upset because that they would talk to more moderate or independents and they'd think, yeah, she's a centrist. So their messaging kind of got through. And the theme of her campaign was affordability, speaking to Virginians' concerns about the rising costs of homes, utility bills, pharmaceutical drugs, and the economic uncertainty that she blamed on Trump's tariffs and federal layoffs. Now, we can know the facts behind all of these things, but normies, regular people who aren't politicos like us, they feel the uncertainty, they see the high bills, they see the high cost of drugs and pharmaceutical drugs and the high cost of health insurance. I can speak to that, and then you're paying high taxes and you have all the media and all that say, here's who you blame. It's not true. It is absolutely not true, but that is the perception. And when you look at the polling data in Virginia and in New Jersey and in New York and in other parts of the country, when asked the voters who came out to vote, when they polled them, they said that they felt that the candidate they voted for, which was a Democrat, was more likely to address those issues of affordability. How are they going to address them? Oh, they're going to, through the government, growing the government, putting us further into debt, taxing the so-called rich, which affects all of us, all of those, lies. But that's the perception.
Right. And I feel like, the Spanberger campaign, they really leaned heavily into like you said, the cost of living, healthcare, stability. And she played the part of a centrist ultimately, even though all of us here know that she's not.
She was asked several times by a local reporter, Nick Minock, about all of the transgenders, the sports, the bathrooms, the locker rooms, all of that. And she ducked and dodged and weaved and never mentioned it at all. I mean, she she really did play the part. Or she's going to vote and she's going to take the actions that the transgender industry is going to love, right? But she did pretend to be a moderate. I do want to say, though, that all of the Democrats talking about how they're going to tax the rich, they're never going to tax the rich. Even if you raised, the marginal tax rates up to 100%, the rich still won't pay taxes because they don't pay income taxes. And this is where it gets complicated, because once you start making these points, you're going to put people to sleep. But the rich pay capital gains taxes. They take out loans on all the stocks that they own, and it's so egregious. The whole system's rigged. And by the way,
And so
Democrats are the party of the rich.
the people that can't do all of those things. They can't hide our money. They can't, we're the ones that bear the burden of, if you have a dual income, we're not rich. But when they say tax the rich, they mean middle class, upper middle class. That's the entrepreneurs, the risk takers, the doctors, the people that put everything on the line to start a business, that finally, accumulate something after working so hard. And it's like, oh, you're rich, we're taking it. That's who they're going to tax. The uber wealthy, they vote Democrat. They're not the ones that are going to be punished. I'm sorry.
Scarlett, the top 10 wealthiest congressional districts in America are all represented by Democrats. And it's not just like D+2, D+3. These are D+10, D+15 districts. The rich are firmly in the camp of the Democratic Party, and the Republicans need to figure that out quickly. And they need to realize that their real base, the base that gets them over the finish line in every single election, are working families. And if we're suffering, we're not showing up to the polls. That's just the reality. And I think that the government shutdown, I know there's a lot of government workers that should be shut out and fired. I fully support it. But I have neighbors that voted for Trump that did not show up to vote for Winsome, and because they're demotivated, because they're laid off. They've been laid off for 2 months almost, right? And these types of things really do impact the vote. And they gave those Democrats a lot of extra time to go and knock doors, to make phone calls, while still knowing that they're going to get a paycheck at the end of this.
Yes, you're right. That I have heard that from several friends. It's anecdotal, but I believe it, that there were people that voted for Trump, that they work for the federal government, they're laid off, and they're not motivated to vote. They're not going to go vote for Spanberger, but they're just not going to show up to vote at all. And that shutdown, I've termed it Schumer's shutdown. The Republicans have reached across the aisle. They didn't want the shutdown. They avoided it, and it was something that I think that Democrats knew might benefit them through the election, which is why immediately afterwards, suddenly they're in the mood to make a deal, and they're ready to.
Well, the polling started to show that the public was starting to blame more Democrats more and more, and Republicans less and less. That's when they shifted their stance on the shutdown. It's just funny how that works.
And I didn't want to. My advice to the Trump administration was cave in, because maybe it'll help you. I mean, they did the right thing. They could not cave. They could not do it at that time. It's something that happened, and it's just something to acknowledge. Could they have messaged it better? I don't know. I think they were doing their best. This is the question, Terry, based on what you're saying, and Lydia, maybe you could answer this. How do we message better that the real rich, the real wealthy are not the conservatives? They're not Maha. They're not the independents. The real wealthy are on the radical left. How do we change that? Because I am telling you, I have a lot of relatives that live in the city of Milwaukee in Wisconsin, or they live in some other cities in Florida. They're Puerto Rican, and their family values, their religious values, they all align with conservatives. They all align with Republicans, but they still think Republicans are the rich country club crowd. We're the wealthy, and they're voting for the little guy, the Democrat Party. They still have that perception. How do we change that?
I think it takes having the conversations, but it's such a hard conversation to have, especially when we're with our family at Thanksgiving and we're not supposed to talk about politics. It's like, how can we have these conversations? So me personally, I do the only thing I know how to do that feels like makes a difference is make my little videos, and I'll show charts. I'll make my videos online and share them with as many people as I can. And I don't know, I think it's just getting these numbers and these facts in front of as many people as possible. And in today's day and age, I feel like a lot of times that is social media. So for me, it's just putting the facts out there and hoping people share it and talk about it. And it will take having these conversations.
What about you, Terry? What do you think?
Look, I think this is just message discipline and never straying from the line, right? When you're talking about the economy, you're talking about how middle-class families, how working-class families are suffering, what you're going to do to relieve their burdens, right? And if you look at like what's killing and crushing the middle class, well, I think there are at least three things in my mind that hurts me, like that are just painful to me. One, it's the mortgage every month. That is absolute. My family, we moved into this house that we're currently in when we only had 3 children. We now have 7 with an 8th on the way, and I'd love to buy a new house, but I can't because the mortgage rates are more than double what we got this at, and the housing prices have all dramatically increased. So we're kind of stuck here. So I think that if we address the housing crisis, make housing more affordable, that's number one. Number 2 is education. Right? If you look at like good Christian people that are working class, that have children in this country, I don't want to send my kids to the public school. 1, I'd like my kids to know how to read. 2, I'd like my kids to know how to do math. The public schools are failing at both of those things. Only a third of kids can read at grade level and do math at grade level. But third, I don't want my kids learning all this crazy anti-scientific stuff. Boys can't have babies. Boys can't become girls. Stop pretending. I don't want my kids developing, having to, sorry, I don't think my kids will ever develop a furry phase, but I don't want them to have to deal with furries in school, right? It's a distraction from the learning environment. We used to kick kids like this out. If you were a distraction from the learning environment, you get kicked out.
Yeah.
But I have to send my kids to private school here, and it's $20,000 a year to send 3 of my kids to one private school. It's $30,000 for high school here a year. Like, let's at least let people, write that off of their taxes. Why do I have to pay to educate everyone else's kids, but then also pay extra to educate my own kids? And then third, I think taxes are too high. I think you should increase the standard deduction to $100,000 if you have children. A married couple with children should have $100,000 standard deduction where you don't have to pay any taxes on your first $100,000. These kids are expensive. The food, the clothing, the shelter, the transportation, all of it. It's crazy, but we need to get people working relief. And I think if we start doing that and never stray from that, never mention corporate tax cuts, never mention job creators. When people hear job creators or entrepreneurs, they hear my boss, and people hate their bosses. There's survey after survey that people show up and they answer the question, do you think your boss would lie to get ahead? Yes. Do you think your boss would throw you under the bus if it meant saving his job? Yes. People don't trust their bosses, and they certainly don't think that they need more economic relief. So focus. And look, I do think that business owners need economic relief, but don't talk about it. Just do it. There are things that you broadcast. There are things that you talk about as your general message to the public. You focus all of that on the economic. And by the way, you got to deliver for the economic, for the middle class on the economy. You have to do it. I'm not saying be deceitful. I'm just saying stop talking about job creators, stop talking about entrepreneurs, because people don't think they need help. Talk about the working families that are getting killed and crushed in this economy, because they're a lot more sympathetic.
The real life stuff.
Yeah, the real life stuff. I was talking to my daughter yesterday, and they are going to be moving back to Wisconsin in a year, and they're kind of looking at homes thinking, will we be able to buy a house? Can we afford a mortgage? And she said to me, and she's dire conservative, her husband's in the military. She's like, Mom, why isn't Trump doing more? Like, why isn't doing more to solve this? And I laid it all out for her and told her, like, listen, first of all, he inherited just a mess, and you know that. And what is hard, what I can't convey to you is how much worse it would be right now if Kamala Harris was in charge, how horrible the economy would be. So I can't tell you how much Trump has saved us from. I can't show you what, there isn't some way, we're not in a Marvel movie. And she's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And so I went through like, this is all that he's doing. These are all the things that he's trying to do. But all of his efforts are time and again thwarted in Congress. The left he'll try to do something, and then there's a court case and they have to fight it and it has to go up to the Supreme Court. And the government is supposed to run slow. That's the nature of the American government. It is slow. But right now, the opposite side, they are trying to just stop it. They are trying to stop it. They want Americans to feel economic pain because for them, it will mean political power. And that is so unfortunate because that is not the way we as conservatives would ever run the government. We would never intentionally harm the American people for political gain, but the other side, they will. So what can we do? Is eliminating the filibuster an answer? Are there things that the administration can do? One last point, we all have to remember Reagan at his point I think 1981, 1982, the economy had not yet taken off. And the poll numbers for him were very low. They were like, oh my gosh, what did we do? Like electing Reagan. And it turned around. It did turn around. And by the time 1984 came around, he was one of the most popular presidents in modern history. So it takes time. Carter wrecked the economy. Biden wrecked the economy. It does take time, but do we have time? Do we have the time, Terry?
I think our margin for error is very small. I don't think we have that much time. I don't think it's over by a long shot. I think Democrats are going to do what they always do. They're gloating right now. And we have some time to turn this all around, all the messaging and the branding going into the midterms. I absolutely do. I think that we can do to Democrats what they did to us in 2022, which is instead of getting a red wave, we got a red trickle. We need to make sure that they don't get a red trickle even, right? We need to make sure that we keep the Senate and we keep the House. And I think we have a great shot at both of that, but it's gonna mean going on offense and going up early, right? I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure the Turning Point crew and Scott Pressler were in Virginia, New Jersey, knocking doors starting in July. I'm gonna go up with APP's campaign ads starting in February. Right? We're going to brand these Democrats like John Ossoff and Roy Cooper in North Carolina. We're going to brand them early so that by election day, we're not persuading voters. We're closing the deal. We're putting the final nails in the coffin. But I think we need to spend a lot more money. We need to get up a lot earlier. We need to knock a lot more doors and put our shoulder to the wheel, because if we don't, we could absolutely lose our country. And you asked about the filibuster also. I keep going back and forth. I feel schizophrenic on it or bipolar on it. Some days I love it because there's not a doubt in my mind that if a Democrat gets back in the Oval Office and they control the Senate and the House, they're gonna break the filibuster. But like, why not get some major accomplishments? Why not? I love what President Trump made in his argument at the press conference the day after the election on Wednesday last week, where he pointed out that we can secure our elections with voter ID nationwide. The only thing is I think the courts would stop that, right? We're in a mess. I know we can get out of it, but it's not that easy.
No, and I'm glad you're like, these are things that need to go out there, because I've heard some people say, oh, it was just blue states. So what? And others like, hair on fire, this is over. Like, well, it's there's no hope. So I think neither extreme is true. But we have to be realistic and figure out our messaging. Do you think that some of the things that are going to happen in New York, some of the things that will happen in Virginia, that they will take this as a mandate and go too far, and that would be beneficial in 2026?
I could totally see, the rest of the world now watching what's about to happen in New York with Mamdani. I mean, that is going to get crazy. And so maybe that will be a good example of what we could get if people continue to vote blue. But I think we just need to shine light on the fact that conservatives did not show up in Virginia, or they didn't show up. And so I think we need to get to the root of why. And I think Terry made a fantastic point about how we need to talk more about real life issues like the housing crisis and how it relates to people. And I think if we can just master that, I think we could go a lot further.
Yeah, I do think that Elise Stefanik, who is most likely to be the nominee for governor in New York, I think she's going to have a great opportunity to unseat Kathy Hochul because of Zohran Mamdani getting elected. I know that APP is planning to heavily support her. She's fantastic. She's a parent herself. I've personally spoken to her several times about protecting our children. It's the top of her priority list. So I think she's in a good spot. I think the thing that's tough about the Trump coalition, and look, I've said this before, I'm a huge political nerd. A major part of the Trump coalition is the Ross Perot voter, right? And for those that are unaware, that are listening, the Ross Perot voter was the third party voter in the 1988 election. I'm sorry, the 1992 election between Bill Clinton and H.W. They don't like these free trade agreements. They don't like Republicans because they think that they're all about corporate America, but they don't like Democrats because they're not big government people. They want a third way and they want the middle class prioritized. And so I think that if Republicans are going to make this incoming blue wave a blue trickle, I think what they really need to focus on is getting messages that really speak to those Ross Perot voters. Those really are the MAGA voters. But they also need to deliver, right? I think a major part of what happened this last election is these people are still hurting. And yes, Trump's delivered on a lot of things that we all care about. But at the same time, housing is way too high. Education costs are way too high. Kids can't get good jobs. Kids are still living with their parents in their 30s. Right. And so if I'm that Ross Perot voter that voted for Trump in 2024, didn't vote for him in 2020, but voted for him in 2016, I'm thinking, when the hell is my son going to get the hell out of my house and marry someone? Well, they can't do that if they can't afford a house. Right. So we've got to actually start delivering on this, or at least come up with compelling policy agenda that voters believe in.
Yes. Democrats are suddenly going to be, we know they run extreme candidates in NYC, okay, because like AOC endorsed, but I already, some of the congressional candidates in Wisconsin, they're talking like Republicans, they look like Republicans, they they are going to try and pass themselves off as I'm just a regular person, I'm just like you, and I care about affordability. But ask them about this is where the culture war issues can come into play. Ask them, do you think that boys should go into a girl's bathroom? And they're going to do the Abigail Spanberger stare of silence. They're not going to say a word. They're not going to say a word. They can't talk on these issues. So we need to find a way to expose them, use some of these culture war issues to expose them, but we can't be so fixated on that we're not addressing those really important bread and butter issues, the wallet issues. People are going to have to feel like the economy's doing better. And that will mean when they go to the grocery store, oh, that price has gone down, or the rates have got, some things have got to happen so that people feel like the economy's better. I have more hope for the future. If they don't feel that way, we're going to have some trouble in 2026. There's just no way around it, because at the end of the day, I think the economy is a driving factor in voting. Now, you may say, well, there are a lot of Republicans that won't vote for Democrats, but they just won't vote, period. Mm-hmm. They just will stay home. And we have switched high propensity voters, right, Terry, are educated, they're in the wealthier areas, they've got multiple degrees. That used to be the old country club GOP voter. That's not our voter anymore. And so we've got the working class, we've got middle class, we've got a new group of voters that came out for Trump that are that flipped MAGA, but they are the more lower propensity voters. They are the ones that are looking and saying, what are you doing for me? Like, what's going on? Because they feel very much affected by the policy. So they will come out, but they're not going to be as easy to persuade. So I think it's
no, and we have to remember what Trump ultimately represents, right? Which is, I know it's a family show, but he is a middle finger to the establishment. That is ultimately what he has always been in the Republican Party. I mean, everyone was up and outraged when they couldn't stop him in 2016 and 15. They tried everything they could to stop him, and they couldn't. It was because he was coming there to blow up the system. And those were the vote. That's why we get the low propensity voters now. These are the people that are disaffected, they hate the system because the system has killed their families. It's humiliated them. Right? Like we talk about tariffs and we talk about manufacturing and how America's had all our factories closed. But you know what it misses? It misses the fact that these men were humiliated. They gave 20, 30, sometimes even 40 years of their life to these companies just to be humiliated and laid off and had their jobs given to foreign workers sent overseas. Imagine being a father, you've been providing for your family, and then in your 60s, you're now unemployed because some Mitt Romney jerk bought your company, sold it out to some Chinese manufacturers, and now what? You're in the unemployment line? You're going to go learn to code, right? They humiliated these people, and those were the people that President Trump appealed to the most, and that's why they're low propensity, because they don't believe in it. They've been hurt by the system. They've been destroyed by the system. They've been humiliated by the system. And so we need voters. We need candidates. We need politicians that can authentically and sincerely speak to what these people have gone through. And I'm very glad that J.D. Vance is our vice president because he's from these areas, right? He comes from Ohio. He's a hillbilly, right? And he knows what's happened in Middle America, and he can appeal to them.
Yeah, he can speak to them. What was there a Maha message from Winsome Sears? Do you think that maybe there could have been more of an outreach to this new coalition that has joined the Maha movement? Like, was that messaging good? I didn't live in Virginia, so
I didn't necessarily see any type of specific Maha messaging. But I think we have to remember that a lot of people too, like I know I have people in my family that vote based on personality. I know someone I'm thinking of specifically right now who did not vote for her because they just didn't like her personality. And so I just think that is completely unacceptable too. I'm seeing a lot of just, when you look at Trump, people that don't like him because of his personality. And I think that we need candidates, like Terry even said, who can actually deliver on what they say they're going to do.
So, you know what? I don't think that all those who voted for Democrats in Virginia were like like they went to the polls, they drove, they were just so enthusiastic. Mm-hmm. We have to remember the Democrats have a machine. Mm-hmm. They get the vote, they will do everything they can to make sure that ballot ends up in the counted. We don't have a similar mechanism, do we? Like, so there's a world where I could see we could get that person that says, I voted for Trump. I don't really like Winsome Sears. But if we could have a conversation and say, like, you know what, this is what she would do. Who cares if you don't like her? Vote right on the policies. You probably get them, fine, I'll vote for her, sure. But you've got to get them to vote, get that ballot filled out, and get that counted. I think Democrats get a lot of people that are like, who is Spanberger? I don't know who she is. And they convince them, or they make it so easy for them to do. They're like, okay, why not? So How do we do that?
Right. I mean, I think that's a great question.
Go on, Lydia. Sorry.
No, I just think I am a hairstylist. Okay. I am in the salon multiple days a week. I have a lot of people in and out of my chair. They know where I stand politically. I think you have to live under a rock to not know where I stand politically. And so I'm having a lot of conversations with people regularly, people that don't agree with me, that are on the other side, or people that are pretty moderate. And I am seeing a lot of just the personality thing. It doesn't seem to be facts or what these candidates can deliver. It seems to be a lot of personalities that people are drawn to and not even what people stand for.
And that's based on, in my opinion, media. That's based
Absolutely.
on 100% media. That the TikToks, I don't like this. They've seen enough media and they're forming an opinion, and now they don't even have to think about the facts anymore. Because then hey, most of the people I know don't like so and so, so it makes it easy for me to not like them too.
Exactly.
What do you think, Terry?
No, it's Mean Girls, right? I mean, that's what the media is. Like they let everyone know who's allowed to be at the lunch table, who's in the in club, and who's not allowed, right? And I mean, like the line keeps getting further and further away from normalcy. And that's what's so crazy to me is like, how is it that AOC and Elon Omar, how are they in the in club? Like, how are they acceptable for ABC, but like Mike Johnson isn't? Right? Like Donald Trump isn't. Like these are actually pretty normal Americans. Like Donald Trump's just a New Yorker. That's it. He's just you. If you know anyone from New York, Donald Trump's pretty similar in terms of demeanor and how he talks and how he treats people. Give you the shirt off his back. Will take care if you really need help. But like if you talk trash to him, he will talk trash twice as hard back. Like that's kind of justice in a lot of ways. But no, the media is a real problem in this country. You know, the BBC just had a major penalty. Trump's suing them for $1 billion because they deceptively edited his speech on January 6, 2021. They made it sound like they took one part of the speech from the 10-minute mark and they merged it with the end of the speech at like the 57-minute mark. It was almost an hour apart. And it made it sound like he was telling everyone to go to the Capitol and knock down the doors and blow everything up. But the media is so evil. They lie. But ultimately, they're just the mean girls in high school. They're the cliquey girls who don't want anyone else to infringe on their territory. They love the Democratic Party. And honestly, it's pathetic because they should be getting a lot more out of the Democratic Party than they're getting with all of the sycophantry that they're giving them.
And they need to be held accountable too, because a lot of this stuff is criminal. I mean, the way they can mold society's mind on somebody and not even give all the facts. And like you said, even edit a speech, that should be criminal.
And I don't want to we're drawing near to the end, and I don't want to get specific about some internal like things going on among the right, like squabbles that we see because we're all on social media a lot. My personal message is just stop it, please. Just stop it, because we missed opportunity. I think Jack Posobiec said it best. He was talking about himself. Well, I am in Virginia, or I'm in New Jersey, while Scott Pressler's out trying to collect ballots. Well, a lot of us are talking nonstop. Hey, this is what's going on in New Jersey. This is what's going on in Virginia. This is what's going on in New York. There were too many in the influence sphere that were talking about just crazy stuff. And they should have been focused on the things that matter. So I think it's really important. We're talking a lot about the influence of media and how we have to overcome these huge obstacles with the legacy media. And we've already don't have enough money for messaging. So it's dependent on us to break through and get to people and tell them the truth, that we've got to be focused and unified as conservatives. We don't all have to agree, but just unified in the fact that let's not get distracted by, kind of the Jerry Springer type squabbles, and let's really be focused on what matters. And that's what I have to say about it, because I'm really sick. I'm sick of it. I have kids, and I just don't want to see these like this infighting and this sort of drama going on that's sort of tabloidish.
I agree with that. I think we can all grow up and be mature and keep it about the facts and the things that matter and the things that affect our families and our children. And so at the end of the day, that's what truly matters. And as conservatives, we should be able to disagree with each other and it not hit a whole different level of drama. It's silly when there's such bigger issues at play.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. We just need to, like I said earlier, massive discipline. What are we doing to help middle class families? What are we doing to help working class families? What are we doing to fight against the left's attempts to destroy our children and their souls? Like that's what's at stake here, and that's what we need to be focusing on. What are we going to do to lower housing prices? What are we going to do to get my sons out of the basement, right, and married and having kids and grown up? Though we need to appeal to those voters that have kids in their basement that are still living there and aren't married. If we can do that, we're going to win a lot more. But all these stupid, I like how you said it. When you say Jerry Springer episodes, like that's exactly right. This is Jerry Springer. It's not helpful. Let's get back and let's focus. Let's move on and let's get the job done. The American people count on us. We're either going to lose our country or not. Right? We are on the verge of losing our country. If the Democrats get back in there, they are going to bust the filibuster. They're going to put 13 justices on the Supreme Court. They are going to they're going to get rid of all voter identification all across the country. They're going to open up the borders again. They're going to raise our taxes. They're going to shut down private schools, right? No one talks about that, but they hate the private schools because it means that they can't control at least a quarter of America's children in their minds. What they have planned for us is so bad. All of this stuff is enraging to know that there's a good portion of the conservative movement that's hell-bent on starting a civil war on our side. When's a civil war ever worked out? It's never worked out. It's always bloody, it's always devastating, and it usually means everyone loses. And so we just need to be united, stop with the Jerry Springer episodes, and just move on and save our country.
I agree. Message discipline. Message discipline.
Yes.
And Lydia, what are your final words to not just to Virginians, but to all Americans who might be feeling like, I voted for Trump in 2024, but I'm still like feeling the economic pain. My kids are still stuck in a bad school, and I'm confused and wondering, like, what do I do? How can I make a change?
Yeah, I would say right now, though, with Trump, trust what he's doing. I mean, we've seen what he's done before. He's doing his best. And I think that not right now, but soon we will start at the grocery store seeing prices come down. I really do. I think that he's doing the best he can. And if we can just trust the process and trust him, we will shortly see that he can deliver. And so really, that's my biggest encouragement to people is just trust him, trust the process. And then moving forward with the elections, we have got to find a way to get more people to show up at the polls. And so that's really my biggest message here is just show up, encourage your friends to vote, and fight what's important, which is stuff like this.
Yeah. Terry, your message.
We just got to work as hard as we can. There's I was at the Conservative Partnership Institute yesterday, and they have this amazing painting of George Washington at the Battle of Valley Forge, and it has these Revolutionary War soldiers without shoes on, without their boots, with no socks. Right, they're barefoot in the cold. This country was not founded by weak men. It was not founded by cowardly men. It was founded by brave people who are willing to ultimately, like, we say this, it's a cliche, to give up their lives for the next generation. Think about what that means. I mean, a lot of our people aren't actually even willing to like give up their job for the next generation. And we shouldn't get to that point, but we have to enter into a sacrificial mindset where we're willing to give up everything we have so that the next generation can be free, because that's what we inherited. The people that got us here are the people that died for us. And it's Veterans Day. I don't think that should be lost on anyone, but we got to do message discipline. We got to put our shoulder to the wheel. We got to be willing to throw the long ball and to sacrifice, because if we're not willing to sacrifice, the left is. I mean, the left is willing to sacrifice a lot. I mean, look at their hair. Look at their looks. I mean, just the looks alone tell you everything. They are willing to die for their causes, and we have to be twice as likely, or twice as willing to die for our causes.
I heard recently someone say this about what's going on in New York City, and they said they actually believe in their religion, and I think it's something that we have to take, like, they actually believe in what they're saying. They believe in their religion, and their politics is their religion, and this ideology is their religion. So we need to believe in what we're doing. We need to, I would say, trust in God, trust in our families, trust in truth, and stand firm on that. Don't question that. And when you look around and you think things aren't yet the way that I'd hope they would be, I think, especially, I'm a conservative. I believe in the power of the individual. I would say, look at yourself, think, what can I do to make a change? Don't look at what someone else can do for you. What can I do? How can I help facilitate change? What could I do to make my school district better? Even in the smallest ways, even if it's, there's things you don't like in your school library, volunteer to go to the school and volunteer to be, we're always needing teachers. And it's not that hard to be a substitute teacher. And so just go in there and then try to make that small change. Volunteer in your local library and volunteer to read books. Donate books that are good to your local library. Just anything that you can do. It doesn't even have to be political. Just find a way to be a force for good in your community and make a change. And you will feel so much better. You will feel different. You won't think, oh, and turn off the news sometimes. Don't look at social media, and touch grass, be with your family, and just and then you'll feel better. You will feel better. You won't feel all this doom and gloom. So I think that we need to, my admonishment on the right is stop being, don't always be so doom and gloom. There are good things. There are good things happening. There are good people, and there are good statistics. There's good things that we can point to. We don't always have to be negative, but we do have to tell the truth. So finding some balance and message discipline, what Terry said, 100%, we've got to be disciplined. I don't know. That's just coming from a mom, coming from my heart.
I love that. That was awesome.
That was great.
Mm-hmm.
And stop being
Touch
like
grass.
Springer. First off, we're not the Jerry Springer. We're not Oprah. We're not like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Nor are we Jerry Springer, though. We're not that either.
Right.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for coming on and talking about these subjects. And it's hard. We said some things that are hard. We might be stepping on some toes, but it's like when you go to church, it's not a good service if you go there and you hear everything that you want to hear, right?
Yeah.
It's a good service. You have a good pastor when he tells you the things that are difficult and the things that you might have to change. And you're like, oh, I really, that vice is one I really kind of like a little bit, but I got to give that up. That's coming in the way between me and my relationship with God, or me and my relationship with my family or my spouse. So sometimes you have to hear these things, because it will, in the end, lead to something better.
I love it.
So, all right, guys, thank you so much. And I will wrap up at the end and make sure everyone knows where to follow these two amazing people. So thanks. Have a great day. Enjoy. It's cold here in Wisconsin. I hope it's nicer in Virginia. It's cold. I am wearing, look at this, it's like 34 degrees. So it's
pretty chilly here.
It's cold. Mm-hmm. All right. Bye,
Love
guys.
you, Scarlett. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you, Lydia Schaffer and Terry Schilling, for this grounded conversation. We've been honest about what we've lost, and we've been honest about some of our opinions on how we can move forward, clear about where to go next. To our listeners, the story in Virginia is not one of defeat, but of learning and renewal. The next local school board races, the next state races, the next governor's races, the next congressional races, Senate races in 2026. These are very important, and we have to learn lessons. If we don't learn from the past, we are doomed to repeat it. We need to continue our focus on Title IX, parental rights, and the ideological insanity that's happening in schools. Perhaps we should reinvigorate our focus on teachers' unions, the corruption, and the sort of the financial side of what's happening in education and how that's affecting people. We also heard from Terry that we really need to focus on the economy and how people are feeling. And I've been saying this for a while. We've got to focus on the issues that everybody can relate to in just a different way. If we want to do what we did in 2024, we want to do it again, but we need to do it when Trump isn't on the ticket. So I think that we have to talk about the economy. We have to talk about how people, their perception of the economy. We have to talk about the fact that mortgage rates are high, and that affects the ability of families to move, to sell their house. That will affect the choice of whether or not to have children. And we definitely want people getting married and having lots of kids and all of that. You know, everything that Charlie Kirk said is still true. Get married young, have babies, pursue a life of meaning. That's what's important. So how do we facilitate that? This is our next frontier. And as joyful warriors, we need to be an inspiration. We need to continue to be an inspiration where we talk about the serious issues, but we do so in a way that isn't all doom and gloom, because it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot to look forward to, but we can't lose our country. We can't lose our way, and we can't stop fighting for what's right. We can't stop fighting for our families. So we need to stand up locally and stay plugged in to the Moms for Liberty network. We need to have some national momentum. It's really important. It's really important that we don't lose hope. We can't lose hope. And when you're feeling discouraged, you know, just like I said, tune everything out except for your family. Turn off the news, put your phone down, and just focus on the things that matters. Be with your friends, be with your family, and remember, tomorrow is another day. Go to the AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. Right here, you can see they have all their information on the website. And then follow Terry on social media. He's very active on X. And his organization is doing a lot to help fight. Like this says, the American Principles Project is the premier national organization engaging directly in campaigns and advocacy on the behalf of the family. And they really are. So make sure that you check them out. And I am so grateful for Lydia Schaffer and to hear, I mean, she posts so many great things on Instagram. And I'm so grateful to Lydia Schaffer for joining us. You can follow her on Instagram at Conservative Barbie 2.0. So you can see right here. And she has got an amazing Instagram page. She is funny, thoughtful, insightful. She is an ambassador for Turning Point USA. And she is amazing. And I want to say thank you to Lydia Schaffer. She is an ambassador for Turning Point USA. And she has an amazing Instagram account, Conservative Barbie 2.0. She's been on before. I will have her on many times again because I love her and she is super fun to talk to and she's very insightful. So thank you, Lydia, for coming on the show again, and can't wait to have you back on to discuss all things conservative through the lens of moms. Ooh, here. Hi, everyone. I'm going to get this right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today I am excited to introduce my guest, Kira Davis. And Kira, I recognize, I was on X and I saw your video and I was like, yes, yes, yes. I loved what you had to say. And then I started to look into your whole body of work and I immediately sent you a message and said, you have to come on my show. I have to talk to you. I just loved what you had to say. And today we're just going to talk and I'm going to learn more about you. You have a ton more experience than I do doing this. You've been doing this for 15 years. So I just want to talk and look over some of the things you've done. I'm a big admirer. And so thank you for being on my show.
Well, thank you, Scarlett. It is a pleasure to be here. Yes, you're right. I have about 15 years in the business. I got into this business because I'm a mom and I was raising my kids at home and needed sort of another outlet for myself to, just have a place to put my thoughts and my feelings. And I was always interested in politics. So I started blogging back in the day. And those were the early days of conservative media when Andrew Breitbart was still alive and Breitbart media was just getting up and running. Back then it was called the big sites, big government, big Hollywood. Forged a career that way. And it's been a great career. It's allowed me to stay home and raise my kids, but also stay connected to the larger world and have an adventure. And this job has brought me many adventures, good and bad, over the years.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 children. I have a 23-year-old son who just graduated college, and I have an 18-year-old daughter who just started college. And as a matter of fact, behind me, you can see my book. It's called Drawing Lines, Why Conservatives Must Begin to Battle Fiercely in the Arena of Ideas. I wrote that book in 2022 when I was running for school board for our school district. And I got into that because I'm a mom and I took one of Moms for Liberty's school board training courses.
Oh, wow.
And learned how to run. I lost. I don't know if this is a ringing endorsement for Moms for Liberty.
I went to school board and lost too. So we're in the same.
We're in a good club. At least we did it. I learned a lot. And so I included some of that in my book. So it's very fitting for me to be here. And it's a pleasure.
Wow, it's so interesting how the origin stories. I ran for school board and I lost. I ran twice and I lost twice, so I have you beat. And I was successful I was part of an effort to recall 4 school board members, and the teachers unions didn't notice us at first, and so we were able to go under the radar and really get to folks who were upset about what was happening to our kids during COVID. And so we were successful until we won the recall. And then once we were on the radar, they poured in resources and money like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
You live in California, so you know.
No, it's a strategy. It's actually a union strategy. It's actually nationwide. It is something that they have formulated. It's an official strategy. So in 2022, when I was running, you may remember that was the heat of COVID during the dark times. And there was a huge parent movement at that time to knock over some of these school boards. Many people were successful, including the neighboring district over, Orange School District. I live here in Southern California. The city of Orange, their school district, the conservative parents ran and won. They took the board over and the unions immediately launched a recall. And they were successful. Now, I will say this, those parents marched in there and immediately it began turning over tables and chairs. So they got as much done as they could in the time they had because they knew that was going to happen. And it certainly did happen. I think it's a lesson for all of us that winning isn't the end, winning or losing, but especially if you win, that's not the end. Then you have to be effective and you kind of have to go in with the strategy of I'm just going to go and knock down as many walls as I can until I get sent home.
That's exactly right. Winning isn't the end. You can win and think, oh wow, you've got the wind in your back, like this is great, and then suddenly the reality sets in, and you can lose, and that's not the end. For me, for you, it was just the beginning. That I wouldn't be here now had I won, and there were so many other victories over the last 4 years and things that I was able to do because I learned a lot by running and I utilized those skills. I didn't give up, and I just used them in a different way and went behind the scenes and helped other people to win in various races, all the way up to a surrogate for the Trump campaigns in Wisconsin. So now what you ran for, you already had this career, like that you were on the radio, you had podcasts, you had honed a lot of these skills. In 2022, what propelled you to say, I'm going to run for school board?
The schools were closed and I wanted them to be open. And my son was a 2020 graduate in high school and he didn't get that year. And then he didn't get his freshman year of college because they kept the schools closed. And then I had a daughter who was just entering high school at the time. And then added to that was all of the trans and DEI ideology that was infecting our schools. That's something I've actually been fighting here in California since 2013. A lot of people don't know that it was 2013 when we got these transgender and LGBTQ curriculums shoved into the public school system, and the lessons were shocking and egregious. And back then I was in media then, and I did the whole media tour. I went on every show that would take me. We did every radio show, but we couldn't get traction on it because no one believed it. It was so crazy. The idea of teaching kindergartens masturbation or teaching lessons about gay social media apps, people couldn't believe it. So we just sounded crazy. And we lost that battle, but it took about 7 or 8 years for that to trickle into the general curriculum and then into the mind of the general population. So I've been fighting this battle for a very long time. I honestly thought we had lost it and that was that. This is another reason why you should never give up. But now the pendulum has swung, had a full swing, and we're seeing people now be totally aware of this. People are starting to notice it's in their classrooms, and that's all thanks to COVID. And so that reignited this new passion and this new wave of concern. And so I thought my school board representative resigned, she snuck away in the middle of the night, voted to keep the schools closed, and then resigned unceremoniously. And I immediately said, okay, I'm running.
Wow.
And so I just thought, I can't count on the school board to do the things that need to be done for our kids. And the only way I can count on them is to make sure that the people on that school board think like me. And the only person I can guarantee who thinks like me is me. So I decided to run. But being in media, I already was pretty much on the radar for everyone in my community. And the unions wasted no time. And they launched an exhaustive campaign against me. They were ultimately successful and I lost, but they definitely didn't want me on the school board.
No, my gosh, it really resonates with me because that's what I was thinking. We kept trying to find more people to run. At the end of the day, I thought, you know what? I don't know if there's anyone I can trust more than myself. Like, I know that I will go in and I will look at that curriculum, and what I saw where there were a lot of moderate males, because we have a 7-person member school board, and the men, I think, were more moderate to conservative, but the females were so strong that they eventually, it felt like they were caving to these women. So I thought, well, if I get on there as a conservative woman, then I won't be like they won't be able to, shame me or sort of, I'll really be able to get things done. And I'm Puerto Rican too. So I thought, well, they can't play any of those. They can't play the race card. They're not going to be able to play the gender card. So I can really get some things done. And once they hear my common sense ideas, they're going to be so excited. I'm going to work so hard and don't get paid at the job at all, but I'm willing to give it all. I had 5 kids. And they were all, my son was in college, but all 4 of my girls were, it was elementary, middle, high school. They were all in school. So I had like a real dog in the fight, and I was running against people that didn't even have kids that were in school, they are school aged. And I thought people are going to see that, but, just what you said, I had already been vocal for a while about COVID. I was kind of I was kind of a face of this recall movement. So they had a lot of ammunition to attack me with. And I just didn't understand yet how powerful the left was. I really was like a little baby. I had all of these like ideas, and I just didn't realize that even though, did you feel this way? Did you look around and think, where are they campaigning? Like, I'm everywhere. We're having rallies and everyone's so excited, but the other side, we're like in hiding. And
No,
so,
we'll talk about learning. What you learn is that the teachers unions are running all of our elections and all of the public school system, because you're right. They don't have to. Matter of fact, the guy that won my seat, it wasn't even from here. They moved him in at the last second. He wasn't even from town. He's sort of a school board jumper. He had served in another town, 2 other districts previously. He's just a seat hopper. But they don't have to, you realize, because school board elections are turnout elections. You really have to depend on the community to know what's going on and to go out and vote. And school board teachers unions and Democrats have a built-in fail-safe in the fact that they have all their union voters. They don't have to go campaign. They have thousands and tens of thousands of union voters, and all they have to do is send around a ticket and say, this is who you're voting for. And that's enough people to beat the base turnout, the non-union turnout, time after time. We have the numbers base-wise, I think, in any given school board election, wherever you are, you could make it work. But generally speaking, the unions just have to pull the trigger of here's the name we want you to vote for. Most people aren't more curious than that. So we've got pockets of victory that have been great, and we're going to continue to win. That's happening across the US, and it's going to continue happening. But we're not going to wrestle the whole thing back until we break the teachers union, because as long as teachers unions are allowed to put their thumb on the scales of these elections, it's going to be increasingly difficult for conservative candidates to win. So no, they don't have to campaign. The campaign is built into their union dues.
Yeah, that was a big lesson. We were on the local radio. New York Times came in and did interviews. We had AP following us around. I mean, I had my minivan packed with fold-out table. Masking tape, our signs, like we had raised enough money to have some signs. We were so careful about them. They were so expensive. And the momentum came, and we had some more donations. We had signs up everywhere. It was like, we felt like we're going to win. We felt so sure. Like, look at all of this attention. Look, we had hundreds of people at rallies. It was just, and when the numbers came and there were 4 of us running and we got 41%, we were just like, we were really shocked. We just couldn't believe it. Like, we never saw any enthusiasm on the other side. Where did this all come from? How did this happen? And we just didn't have that understanding. Also, the Republicans did not come out to vote. Had every Republican that even had voted for Trump in 2020, even though he lost, if they had just come out to vote, we would have won easily, hands down. But we did not get the numbers out. That's what happened. And I think when you look at what just happened in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, in New York. Well, in New York, there was a lot, you could see there was a lot of passion, and it was predicted he was going to win. But there was a lot of hope for Chitterelli in New Jersey because, and I know friends, many friends that were out there. They were doing so much work. They had Scott Pressler out, they had Jack Posobiec, they had TP USA, they had all of this momentum, and it felt like, yeah, we could actually do this. And the numbers came out probably similar to ours. They were like 41, 42% of the vote. And I think there was hope, but what wasn't understood is how powerful the unions are and that infrastructure that the Democrat Party has when they utilize it. And our side's not getting out to vote in these nonpartisan elections or these midterm or off-year elections like they should be.
Well, this has always been a challenge, but I think the nature of the challenge is becoming, unfortunately, more obvious in this current political era. We've been talking to the Republicans forever about being more active and getting out in midterms, the party and the voters. The party does, need to be a little bit more strategic about midterms. It's difficult because you have the national party and then you have the state parties and then you have local and county parties, and they're all different. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So it's hard for those people to work together. Regardless, whatever party you're talking about should have a midterm strategy. But this is one of the things I speak about. I travel up and down the state of California talking to, in particular, women's Republican clubs. And one of the things I tell them is, look, you should be adopting a school board. This club should have a school board that you officially consider in your family. And when there are elections, you are advocating for the conservative candidates. You are raising money for them. You are knocking on doors for them. You are their volunteer teams. You send people to the meetings. You make sure that people know what's going on in the school board. You make sure that when elections come around, the community is notified, because we have to start wrestling back the public education system, and basically we have to re-educate our patriots. Marxists have been educating our students for 70 years. Now we have to do it, but it means we've got to win the school boards, and then we've got to change the cultures, and we can't do that without great support, as you just pointed out. Yep. That, it's when you're talking about midterms and we're talking about local elections like school board elections, that's turnout, that's name recognition, that's advertising. Your local Republican Party should be pouring a lot of money into advertising for their school board candidates. They really should, because it's not just the education of the future voters and patriots that is at stake, but it's also a whole bunch of contracts. It's also a whole bunch of money, also a whole bunch of influence in the community that belongs to whoever really holds power in the school board. So if Democrats and unions control your school board, it's all their people that get the contracts. It's all those people that have the power and influence in your community. It goes way further than just setting the math curriculum for your district.
Yeah, I mean, Moms for Liberty, that has been what we're all about. School boards, school board races, getting candidates, policy, all of that. And there's just the funding for these nonpartisan races is not great. It takes a lot of volunteers doing a lot of work. They don't get paid. There's just the donations. It's rough. So you talk about with the GOP. I mean, I know of cases where if a candidate's lucky, they could get $200 from a local GOP.
Yeah.
Because they're so cash strapped themselves, and they will. There are even some local GOP that won't endorse or give money if it's a nonpartisan race. So they're kind of out now. In our county, we changed that by getting involved in our local GOP and reviving and having leadership that will prioritize these races for all the reasons that you said, because they are important. And a lot of times, I mean, I think Republicans and Democrats, but in our state house, a lot of our current Democrat leaders, elected leaders, started in the school board. It's just a springboard. First school board.
That's right. It's grooming. It's grooming. Yeah, it's a breeding ground. That's where you train up your bench.
Yeah. And with us, I feel like that's where it stops. Like they run to school board and they're so battered and beaten down that they're like, I'm done. I'm out of here. There's just overall, there's some structural issues. Now, some even make the case, you know what, we have to work behind the scenes. and if there are areas where if we are vocal and out front, so we are going to do a lot of work behind the scenes, build relationships, try to work with anyone who will work with us on the school board, and not draw attention to it because if they see that they're working with Scarlett Johnson, oh, all the crazies will come out protesting. But if it's more of a behind the scenes relationship, things can get done. And so what do you think about that strategy to work behind the scenes and do a lot of work, but maybe not be as vocal?
I don't think we're in the era for that. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would say, yeah, that's good. But they tried to kill President Trump. They tried to do everything they could to make sure that he didn't win in November, and they killed Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
We are not in the era of compromise. This is war, even on our school board. So I'm not in the mood for that strategy these days. And I don't think the people want that. I think people are starving for clarity. They want to know exactly what your intentions are. And as a matter of fact, when you do work out in front and what you do is you make your opponent come to the front too. See, they like it when you work behind the scenes, and then the whole world doesn't have to see how freaking crazy they are all the time. So when you make them, you got to make them work out front so everyone can see the things they say and the things they do. That's why they lull us into be like, let's just work behind the scenes where it's calmer back here and we don't get all the nasty letters. No, they should get the nasty letters from their base. Oh, I don't like you working with that conservative. They should get those nasty letters, right? And the conservative members should get those nasty letters. Like, we don't like what you're doing. We don't like that you're so vocal. That's how you know that you're advocating for the people who voted for you. I think there's not to.
So you don't love the super secret supporters, because I had a lot of those. Oh yeah, I'm supporting you. Very quiet. Those super secret. We're behind you. You can't see us, but we're there.
No, it's not time for that anymore. I understand that there was a time for it, and there was a time when you could make an argument for that. I guess not all of us are like that, but it, takes all kinds of people to make the world go round. Fair enough. We are no longer in that era. This is not a matter of if we don't win this election cycle, then it's going to be a few more election cycles before we get our feet under us again. I truly believe if we don't win this next election cycle and the next few to come, that's the end of the American experiment. They were going to kill us. So no, you don't have the luxury of if you want to be in the background now, then I don't think you're part of the movement. I don't think you want to win. So
What do you think the Jay Jones win signifies? I mean,
it signifies that the left has completely lost their marbles, and this is where we are now. This is who we're up against. They don't care. They don't care about your life. They don't care. They don't care if someone's murderous, right? There's a part of the people that voted for Jay Jones. There's a part of them that feels like, well, he was kind of justified in saying what he said. Again, I think after Butler, Pennsylvania, where a man did lose his life over political violence, and after Charlie Kirk, and after all of the violence that we have seen, there's no more question what the intentions of these people are. So what that election has done, I think a great silver lining from it is that it has provided us a lot of clarity with who we're dealing with. Do you want to compromise with that? Is that who you want to work behind the scenes with? Yes. No, you got to call them out for who they are, and then you got to treat them like the people that they are. But if you're going to work behind the scenes to do, or support people behind the scenes, that's what Democrats do. Go be a Democrat then.
Well, and for context, Jay Jones didn't just say he fantasized about the death of his political opponent. He fantasized about the children dying in the arms of their mother so that his opponent could finally understand the reality of
all think like that. That's the thing. They all think like that. I am a former liberal. For many years ago, 9/11 was my wake up moment, but I still have a lot of liberal friends. Most of my family is liberal. In fact, my mom broke up with our family over Trump. We no longer have a relationship with her because of Trump or over Trump. It's not his fault. We don't know him, but they all think like that. That is the thing. And the ones that don't think like that are the ones that are peeling off. They're the ones that are going, whoa, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm either going to sit out the elections or I'm holding my nose and voting Republican because something's weird here. But there is that mindset that is like, yes, it's wrong to kill people, but if only these people knew the pain of gun violence or knew the pain of starvation or knew the pain of whatever, of prison, then they wouldn't be so bad. And so then it's okay to inflict this upon them because they need to learn their lesson. That's a very, very dangerous mindset. So I'm glad that Mom Donnie and the Jay Jones thing happened. I'm not happy that it is this way, but I am glad that the silver lining is that everybody gets to look at the other side and see what we're up against. Exactly what do you want to compromise with?
I think the only caveat I would say is I know people that they're Democrats, and I mentioned, like, look at what happened with Jay Jones, the AG candidate for Virginia. And they were like, who? Jay who? I'm not joking. They don't know. So
Yes.
don't be surprised that when we say that I think Democrat leadership or like the diehards may think this way. A lot of people that just vote Democrat, they don't know who Jay Jones is, or they convince themselves that you're a bad person, you're a white supremacist, so I don't even have to listen to you. You're probably lying anyways. You're making all this up.
Well, this is my point. This is my point. Even though those people, first of all, you're absolutely right. That's the other thing we need to keep in mind is that, like, we think that social media is the end all be all of these discussions, and we do all our polling there. And most of the country isn't even thinking about these kinds of things. Another issue, right? It's turnout, yeah, especially for these smaller elections. But that's the other thing is your Democrat friends, I think I would, do they might not know who Jay Jones is, but do they think if a Republican politician, if Donald Trump had the chance to hold his dying kids in his arms while they bled out from a gunshot wound, do you think your friends would think that's horrific? Or would you think your friends would say, I think he maybe deserves that? See, this is what we need to think a little deeper about. After Charlie died, I tell you what, I realized just how many of my Democrat friends actually would be just fine with me or someone else dying. This is what you need to think about. Your friends might be nice and great. I mean, I'm sure they are nice and great because you are, and I'm not, this is obviously, I don't know them and I'm not painting everyone.
I know what you're saying. You're saying.
Yeah, people need to like step back and go, well, sure, maybe my friends didn't really know about all of the details of Jay Jones, but it isn't about what they know. It's about what they believe. And I bet if you ask them some direct questions, you'd get some pretty disturbing answers. I think we all need to come to terms with this.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes they can think it's all in this realm of theoretical, and the political violence, even after Charlie Kirk, I think Charlie Kirk did shake people up, but they still, because, he's Charlie Kirk or something, like they're still have not come to terms with the political violence on the left. Or maybe I'm just hopeful in thinking that they don't take it seriously. Even after all of this, they're not taking it seriously, that there's real political violence. Antifa is real. This isn't a GOP talking point. This is something very real. Just Andy Ngo didn't just make all of this up. You live in California, like very dangerous. I'm Moms for Liberty. I have been confronted with these folks a few times, once in Pennsylvania, and it's terrifying. Antifa is terrifying. It's the first time in my life that I felt these people would kill me in a second. They would rip me to shreds if not for the police officers. I felt the evil, like the hate around me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who might not take, stories about Antifa or stories about Andy Ngo seriously. Of course, they don't get it. There's a lot of people like, it's not that bad. But if it were that bad, would it be that bad? You know what I mean? That's what's going on the other side. Everyone needs to be honest. That's what underneath it all, and you should ask the direct questions so you know. Yeah. I learned a lot about the people I called my friends after Charlie died. And I don't think someone is safe who really has that underlying feeling of if there were, listen, ask yourself this about your, I don't want to use even the term Democrat.
You can just, yeah, like, and
you're progressive,
yeah.
you're like your progressive friends and family. But think about it. They might say, hey, I don't condone violence. I just don't like, hateful speech. But if you went to them tomorrow, you waved a magic wand and you said, you know what? For the next 24 hours, you can round up whoever you want and you can put them in a re-education camp, and they have to stay there until they learn the proper way to be an American and learn the proper way to vote, which would be voting Democrat or to the left.
And use the right pronouns.
Or die. If you could do that and there would be no consequences for you whatsoever, would you do that? Most people would say, yeah. Right? Like underneath a lot of them, if they knew that there would be no consequences for punishing us physically or otherwise, most people would say, yes, that's okay. This is what I need people to understand, that lurking under the surface of these political and policies discussions is a deep and evil and dark agenda that really would see most of us who advocate for liberty dead or in jail. I know it sounds hyperbolic. It might not be the right tone to be striking on a Moms for Liberty podcast, but that is exactly where I think we are. And I want everyone to know that this is a new position for me. I am just getting here. I have not been this person until the last year. Till the last year, you can go listen to all my stuff and you're going to hear me saying, let's persuade, let's be persuasive, let's be influential, let's get in on the culture. Where I got radicalized is Charlie. I just don't think there's no more time for compromise. I think we have to win or it's over.
Now, you mentioned that you saw this curriculum as early as 2012 and 13. That was one of the questions I was going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of friends that, like Kelly Shinesky, who has talked about this for a long time. She's in California. My friend Rebecca, who chairs of California chapters of Moms for Liberty. They do a lot of great work, but I think because in California, there can be thought of it can't be saved. What can you do? But there are a lot of moms and a lot of dads that are doing so much work despite all that. I just spent the weekend in Chicago at a conference with Sonia Shaw, who's fighting the good
Sonia's
fight.
Talking to my ladies club next week here in
Oh,
Southern California.
really?
She'll be the guest of honor.
Amazing, and she's such a fighter.
Can I plug that, by the way? If you're,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's a Southern California area Republican women, scarw.org, and go buy your tickets. Sonia Shaw's going to be our featured speaker. She is awesome.
She's amazing. She's amazing. And I'll put that in the comments. Send that to me. Text me that. I'll make sure I get that in the comments.
Great.
But you saw this much earlier. I wasn't aware of any of this until COVID. I had no idea. My friend James Lindsay had mentioned to me when he was coming to talk about critical race theory in Wisconsin in 2020 and 2021. I went out to lunch. That's where I really met him for the first time, and we started to become friends. We were with a group, and he said, "Well, actually, critical race theory is old news." And I'm like, "What?" It was just this huge issue at the time. And he said, "No, what's the real issue is gender ideology and critical theories that go beyond race and go into, quote, gender and this, transgender sort of obsession." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "That would never happen in Wisconsin. And I've never even heard of such a thing." And he started to explain it to me. And I kind of, in my head was like, I was nodding in my head. I'm like, he's lost a couple of marbles there. Like, that's talk. And then a mom calls me a few months later and tells me she is on a committee that in a school district in Wisconsin that is about to adopt a new sex ed program, comprehensive sexuality education, advocates for youth. And she has got a hold of the materials and she wants to send it to me, and I'll be shocked. So I pulled over in my car, in my minivan, pulled over the side of the road so I could pay attention, pulled it up, and I'm like, oh my God. everything James had talked about, but worse.
Mhm.
And I was like, and that started me down the path of like 6 months of deep dive research into what literally the depths of hell, which is what this curriculum is. It's so abhorrent for children.
So that curriculum, I haven't looked at yours, but I feel actually very, very confident in telling you it's probably the same curriculum that we developed. So we're always the test case here in California. This is why everyone, you should care about what happens in California. Don't abandon us because it comes to you next.
Yes.
So, but we were the test case. So a group called the Human Rights Campaign wrote the sex ed curriculum here in California. I always like to mention that the executive director of the Human Rights Campaign, who is Hillary Clinton's best friend, is serving time in prison for child sex abuse right now.
Who's that?
I can't remember his name. He's doing like 7 to 12.
Wow.
Yeah, he might even be out now because this was a while back that he went in, so he might even be out by now. They wrote this. So the Human Rights Campaign has a very innocuous name, sounds very nice, but it's actually just a hardcore left-wing, radical, transgender and LGBT
IA2S.
all the other letters, advocacy organization. They write the bill. Every bill that has to do with sexuality or gender in California, it was written by them. All the curriculum bills, it was written by them. Their fingerprints are all over that 2013 curriculum that we were fighting. Their fingerprints are. If you go down all the way down that rabbit hole, you'll end up at the HRC website. So this is a certified strategy that they then successfully infected the California public school system with very quietly. It was really hard for us to be heard. You know, kudos. I gotta say, shout out to my friend Dan Bongino, who had me on his show like every week for like a year to talk about it.
Really?
I mean, he was really a true advocate for it. And the other person I like to mention when I talk about this is Larry O'Connor, WMAL, out of Washington, D.C., and works at Town Hall as well. They were on it, but even those voices weren't big enough to tell people what it is. So Human Rights Campaign then took this strategy and imported it. So that's why people in states like Wisconsin will go, what? This can't possibly be here. We would never vote for this. Well, no, of course you wouldn't. You didn't. The parents of Wisconsin did not. The Human Rights Campaign came in and threw around a lot of money, and then it ended up in the right bills. It just gets, put in there by incrementations. I want to say this is the same thing with the union, the recall strategy for the teachers unions. It's the same thing. It's all the same people. All these strategies, Republicans are so hobbled because we tailor our strategies state by state, and the Democrats have a strategy and then they import it to the other states.
Yep.
That's what you're seeing.
Yep. I'm pulling up right now. So you're like everyone can see. I've talked about this so much, but Human Rights Campaign, they are behind the Advocates for Youth, 3 R's. There's different names. The Advocates for Youth was the most recent. The Future of Sex Ed and the national organization all worked together in 2020 to create a comprehensive sexuality curriculum that Biden, of course, shoved like down the throats of all school districts, and then federal grants made it free. So guess what? They love free, and they love the fact that it's uber woke. And Human Rights Campaign is behind so much of what is going on in your school district. They fund a lot of those rainbow reading rooms, GSA clubs, all of those things. The fingerprints of HRC is on all of it.
And guess who they're partnered with? The Clinton Foundation. Need I say more?
Yep. And so look at mobilizing voters. They mobilize voters and they deliver curriculum into classrooms. So when they tell you, oh, stop being so political, because you're running for school board isn't political. Education isn't political. That's what they say so that the normies can
Right.
go back to sleep. For
Right.
them, it is so political. Look at what happened.
Only political. They don't care about educating kids. Obviously, let's look at the numbers. We only have to look at the education numbers in literally every state in this country. So clearly they don't care about the kids. Of course, it's only ever political. Conservatives made the mistake of believing that our opponents loved this country and our children as much as we did. And so that you wouldn't bring politics into education. We made a mistake in thinking that nothing is political except politics. As it turns out, everything is political. Everything.
Unfortunately, there are, I would say, at least half of conservatives or Republicans, and I hate always using Republican, Democrat, but we have two-party system. You can vote one of two ways. Of course, there's all these different third parties, but they don't really get much traction. So, but a lot of the county GOPs, they still believe that, these are non-political. We shouldn't be so political. We don't need to be so partisan.
Right. Yeah.
They're becoming fewer and fewer. And in Wisconsin, we've got a lot of great people because there was so much effort put into Wisconsin over these last election cycles because it's a battleground state. We've progressed rapidly. Like, we've got a lot of leadership that know exactly what time it is. In fact, my state chairman, GOP chairman, was a mentor of mine. He was 100%, before he was chairman, supportive of Moms for Liberty and the parental rights movement. And he gave us a whole platform. He recognized right away, this is the future. This is so important. And frankly, this is a way to get people waken them up out of their slumber and get them out to vote, talk about these issues. And so that it's great, but in a lot of areas, they don't want to talk. They still to this day will not talk about these issues. They'd rather talk about the flat tax.
Yeah, I ran into that problem when I was running for school board. It was like I was running because of the DEI and the trans stuff, and the old guard Republicans were like, "Calm down, like it's it's going to scare people off. It's too political." I had a lot of Republicans working against me, actually, because I have a job in media, in conservative media, and they felt like I was too political, and I am a conservative commentator, so obviously a lot of my commentary is very pointed out there. But I even had some Republicans call me and say, we're just concerned, you being a member of the media, if you get on the school board, what kind of things are going to get out? Like, you're always where. I had somebody follow me. I had a Republican woman her name's Melissa. She's like a mom, who advocates for Republican causes here in our area, follow me to the Moms for Liberty school board training. She followed me there to hunt me down to, I didn't know that's what she was doing, but she cornered me there, asked me like a bunch of questions that I didn't understand were aimed at like digging into who I was and what I was doing. I just thought she was another mom there, and then proceeded to begin this email campaign against me in the Republican Party, saying, I don't think this person is a real conservative. I don't think this person is a real Democrat. She doesn't understand what's going on. She's going to be dangerous. She's too pointed. She's too, right wing. And I had to, so then what happened was actually Harmeet Dillon got a hold of it. And then Harmeet Dillon sent out a tweet on my behalf saying this looks a lot like libel, and they backed down. Thankfully, I just know Harmeet through my many years in this industry, and both of us being Californian. But that is what happened. So that happened within my own party. This is an ally, but that was because it happened because there were people going, "You're too much. It's too much. You're too much. We can't. The people aren't going to believe this. Tell people that you're going to reinstate the math honors program." That's what they want. And we're not in the math honors program era. It'd be great to get back there. Let's get back there. But in order to get back there, we need some warriors. We need some mama bears. And unfortunately, Republicans in many cases are just as reticent to support the mama bears as the Democrats are.
Yes, I had at a GOP caucus, I had someone who I thought was friendly come up. I went up to them to say to vote because I decided, well, if I want change, I'm going to have to run for a position in my local GOP. And so I did. And I'm, like I have good relationships. I'm always nice. I'm Wisconsin nice. Okay. Like I'm always trying to be very nice and fighting the good in something. And I'm like, oh, hey, would you vote for me? And it was just like, no, you're a disruptor, Scarlett. You're just a disruptor. You're disrupting everything. And I'm used to getting attacked by Democrats. That's fine. But that I was really like trying not to cry, but frankly, I'm just like, wow. I didn't even know what to say. I'm sorry. I don't know what I've done wrong. I don't think I've done anything untoward. I'm just running. I'm trying to bring change for kids. It's like, no, and
they don't want change because we're not just, this is no longer a battle of really left versus right. This is a battle of pro-America versus anti-America. And I'm afraid we have anti-Americans even within our own party. Maybe not necessarily because they hate America, but just because they don't really care about Americans. They have their established spot. They're going to be dead in 10 or 20 years anyways. They're not worrying. This is what I love about President Trump. He's a visionary. He thinks to the future. He won't be with us that much longer. He's elderly, but he's thinking about the generations that are going to come in 20, 30, 40 years when he's long gone. And most politicians don't have that ability for whatever reason. They're either too narcissistic or they just don't have the vision. And so
they're afraid to. I think they're afraid to admit where we're at. It's scary. And
no one wants to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for them to admit where we're at, they're going to have to admit that they're wrong.
And that maybe they were leading the party to this point, and then that might mean that, hey, I just didn't. And it's okay to say, I messed up.
That's so Wisconsin. What a nice Wisconsin attitude. It's okay to say if you're wrong, but in politics, it's not okay to say if you're wrong. It's a career killer. And for most people, their pride won't allow them. Most people won't. I don't think people understand like a perspective shift. Like it is, that's very rare for most people. Like, the reason why we had the Never Trump split in 2016 and again in 2020, we lost a lot of our intellectuals on the right. They moved over to Never Trump. They're still over there. Link Project, Bill Kristol.
I used to love Bill Kristol.
I used to love Bill Kristol too, but you know what we realized is that Bill Kristol didn't love you. He didn't care about us as readers, right? He didn't see us as readers or colleagues or peers. He saw us as minions, people who get our talking points and our thinking points from him. And when he realized we didn't think like him, and not only did we not think like him now about a certain issue, now we're exercising our power and we're way more influential than him, he got mad at us. So he was never for us. It was never about us. He's mad that he's wrong. We made him wrong and we made ourselves right. And he doesn't like that. Look at what they're mad that their strategy and their ideas for winning turned out to be wrong. Look at the church. Look at what happened like 2020. We were in this third way thing where it's like, we shouldn't be too evangelistic. We should be, opening the churches to the center, seeker friendly. The Gospel Coalition, Russell Moore, Tim Keller wing of the Protestant church became really big, and they were winning a lot of people into the church. And then it kind of just stagnated, just flattened out. Charlie Kirk dies, and suddenly we're seeing this huge revival of evangelistic Christianity and Protestant faith and faith values, or just faith values in general. And what was Charlie's message? It wasn't the third way. It wasn't this, let us be seeker friendly and we're going to invite you in, come as you are. It's like, no, young men, stop drinking, get married, have a family, raise kids, vote for Republicans, be conservative. That's the message that's resonating.
Yes.
Because that's what they don't like, is that they're wrong.
Kids, they're hungry for truth and discipline. they are disordered. They're the young brain, like they may repel it. Of course, if you raise teenagers, you know that. But deep down, they need it. They want it. They need that kind of structure. They need to be told what's right and wrong. And when you don't, I mean, if you ever watch Jordan Peterson, what you do psychologically when you just sort of let your kids like make grown-up decisions at a very young age and pat yourself on the back that you are such an amazing parent, you're so progressive. No, you have done a disservice to your child, and they will end up resenting you, and they will have anger towards you because you didn't parent them when that was your job. And if you don't do the job of raising your kids and giving them a worldview, someone else will gladly do it for you.
And here we are.
I want to play real quick before, I want to play this, what you put on social media, because it's really important. So let's
go to a school board meeting for your kid. Would you go to 10? Would you go to 10 city council meetings for your kids? Would you run for city council for your kids? Would you knock on 40,000 doors for your kids? Would you register 5,000 voters for your kids? Don't tell me you'll die for your kids. That's the easy part. Every parent would. Will you sacrifice your Saturdays to walk for that candidate that you believe in for your kids? Everyone needs to start reframing what it means to serve, what it means to sacrifice, and what it means to die for your children and to die for your country. It means dying to yourself. It means dying to your schedule, dying to your comfort, dying to your need to be well liked and loved, dying to yourself, dying to your own needs. It's a service.
Oh my gosh, I like goosebumps, just goosebumps. I can't tell you how many times in how many different situations where we're asking, hey, can you just come out to support? And like, oh no, I've got this, or, you know, my kid's basketball game or this. Do you know how many basketball games I've had to miss? I try very hard. Do you know how many dinners I haven't been to? Do you know how many vacations had to get rescheduled? How many sacrifices are made by the people that are trying to, they're running, they've committed their life, they're going to run for office, but those that are supporting them, and then just like you said, school board, just changing policy, just bringing awareness. It's so much effort, and we ask for so little, and we just, I feel you on this. I just have to say, I feel you on this.
I think I don't want to be too harsh on people because I get it. I get it. I have had those moments, those times in my life myself, where I'm like, after my school board race, I kind of like just retreated for a year and a half, just just to lick my wounds and recover.
You have to take a break. You do. That you give like you abandon your family. It's a season. Like
it's a season, right? It's a season.
I'll do that. Like after the Trump campaign, I took a break. I had to.
You have to, because you give everything. So I get it. And a lot of people feel like a lot of people feel like it's an all or nothing choice too. They're not sure. Like I'm either campaigning for somebody every single day or running myself or doing nothing. It's another reason why I wrote my book. It's got all kinds of practical advice about what you can do where you are in your time. And that's what that video was about. It's like, you need to reframe what it means to be active and to serve. You don't have to be us, right?
Nope,
it is a type of person. It's a type. We're a type, right? That will go out on a Friday night to a meeting rather than, a concert. It's a type. Fair enough. But you can do something right where you are that won't co-opt your whole life. You have options. There are ways you can support people, support the truth. It's as easy as doing something like putting a sign in your yard for a school board candidate, which is so hugely important. It's stuff like that. Everyone needs to reframe what it means to be a part of the battle, but no one can sit out the battle. Now, this is the point. This is what I was talking about. We are no longer in that position. So fair enough, if you don't want to come up off a few hours a month to go to your school board meeting, maybe you can come up off of a few hours a year to go to a school board meeting. Could you get together with 10 friends and everybody takes a month? Like we have school board meetings once a month. Maybe somebody, you know, or whatever it is, you get 20 friends, you know, however many meetings you have, and divide those up so everyone just has to take one per year. And then you just go back and report to the group, the Facebook page or whatever, what happened there. Like everyone needs to start thinking about what it means to serve, do it differently. You know, I talked to a lady who I use this all the time. She came to buy one of my books at a book event I had. She's a teacher in the Seattle public school system, or she was a librarian. And she said, you know, I can't take any books out of the library because of our laws, but I can put any books in there that I want. So what I do is I go and I buy conservative books. I just put them in the library, and then I have a discussion on your free period, like on lunch break. I hold a discussion group for any kids that might want to come in and talk about one of these books, and we pick a book every month. So I only have like 2 or 3 at most students that do it, but that is her thing, where she is doing right where she is. Is she changing the world? I don't know. No, maybe. Is she going to change the White House? No. Is she going to change midterm elections? No. But she's doing what she can right where she is, and that's enough. Everyone needs to pick something, get in a lane, get in the game, get in where you fit in, because this is war, and you're either a soldier or you're a victim. You pick one.
I think you're exactly right. And what I'm saying and what you're saying, you definitely don't have to be us. I think I wouldn't ever ask someone to do that much work. If you feel called to it, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. But there are so many other things you can do. I love that. And I love what you said. I love bringing books, you know, getting books, putting a different content, putting something wholesome and good and decent. And that's the kind of thing that you can do. With Moms for Liberty, you don't have to be in front of a camera. You don't have to be the person running for office even, but you could, what do you do well? Could you bake cookies and add that as part of our fundraiser? We're going to sell some, like a lot of times there's bake sales in order just to raise money for causes in their local community. Can you knock doors? That's great. If you're uncomfortable knocking doors, could you help with the maps? Could you help with spreadsheets? Can you help be a watchdog? Could you go to the board docs and check it out? Could you monitor what's happening in the state house?
A lot of you moms out there, you're crafters. You love to craft. You have button making machines. You have ribbon making machine. You can tell that I'm not very domestic because I don't know what it is.
But yes, there are people.
But I have friends who have all that stuff. And you know what? As you said, like the stuff for when you're running for office, that stuff gets expensive. You have a very limited budget. Could you sit in your home after the kids go to bed and make buttons for your candidate? You know, make 100 buttons. Could you do that? Like, think in those terms, everyone. It doesn't have to be, you don't even have to be the one who's like, if you don't want to go. And again, you observe a vote count for one day a year or once every 4 years, you could do that, but you don't even have to do that. If you have stuff that you're doing in your own home already, that you already enjoy doing, could you put out flyers for a candidate at your next dinner party or at your next event? Just stick them by the front door or put them in your kids' like goodie bag. You know, everyone think outside the box. Think outside the box.
And I think if you're a leader, don't be a martyr. Like, get people, it's all me. Oh, woe is me.
No.
The number one way that I find to get people that I know agree with me, they want to be active, their kids are old enough where they can get involved. And this is, if you've got babies, you're okay. Like, I'm not bugging. I had 5 kids. You got little ones, and there's still something you want to be involved. There's definitely things that you can do. And we try to do things where bring your kids anywhere. Like, we're going to go testify in Madison. You want to come? Bring your babies. People do bring them if you want to. But if you've got really young kids, you're okay. You're okay.
You get a hall pass.
You could now Turning Point, and I know Moms for Liberty. We developed we had a phone system where we had moms at night when their kids went to sleep, a half hour, here's a list, make some calls. Hey, did you vote? Did you get your ballot? You have your ballot? Did you turn it in? Okay, great, thanks. Do it from your home. No one knows who you are. There's a way that no one sees your number. You can do this and you feel like, oh, I got something done and I didn't sacrifice the time away from my family. Number one, so when kids are older and I see that there's moms that want to get more involved, I say, let's go to the State House, let's go to Madison, and we're planning a big legislative day this year in February in 2026. When they see it demystifies things, that it's not as scary, but they also see 13 hours of the Human Rights Campaign and the ACLU and the NEA and the local Wisconsin teachers unions, when they bring the cars and the buses around and drop off all their protesters and they testify and they see the insanity of what we're up against and they hear and they see with their own eyes and their own ears, they see it. It cannot be denied anymore because when these people testify, they will say all the quiet things out loud, the craziest things that you could possibly imagine. I mean, I've seen women that have medical degrees say that, yes, you can have an abortion after the baby's born, which is murder. Okay. So you will see some very crazy things and you'll never be the same. So if you're a leader and you want others to join you, you've got to start to show them what's happening so they can experience for themselves and then show you proactively doing something about it. And like, there is a path, there's a way that we could actually make change. And then make it fun too. Have a wine night, have a go for coffee, talk about, I wanted to bring up Hallmark movies if you have to, do something, find something that is also fun and so that you can decompress a little while and just be. You'll probably find yourself still talking about.
I have a great surprise for you. I have a Hallmark podcast.
You do?
I do. My friend and I, Amelia, we love Hallmark movies. We love cheesy Christmas movies like TV.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Great
American Family, all that. We love it. So we have our own podcast. It's called Journey to Christmas Land. It's with Kira and Amelia. It's on Substack, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. We just searched Journey to Christmas Land. It actually was a previous podcast called A Very Merry Podcast, but it was so close to another successful podcast in that space, we had to change the name. And so we just rebranded. But yeah, we talk about Christmas movies. We review the movies. We talk about all of our favorite things, all the funny things, all the cheesy things. And it's a nice break from the because we're both in the political space for our jobs. So it's a nice break from all that. We have so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to
today.
As soon as November 1st, my husband makes me wait. Hallmark that's all it is. It's Hallmark.
Oh, girl, we have it on all year. And we do the podcast all year too, because it's always we call the Christmas universe is Christmas land. So it's always Christmas in Christmas land. We do Christmas in July. We were just talking about the Hallmark cruise. There's a Hallmark cruise.
Really?
There is a Hallmark cruise is going on right now. So we missed this one, but we were looking at it for next year. They have a Hallmark cruise. They have a Hallmark house, a house tour in Connecticut where it's like a trail of houses that they used.
I want to go. I want to go.
We're planning. We're going in February. We're gonna film an episode there. Actually.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I have a Hallmark. I have my Hallmark watching wine glass. My Hallmark watching. I have my blanket.
Girl, I will. You know what? I'm gonna send you a subscription so that you can watch our Hallmark podcasts and stay in touch on the newsletter because you will love this podcast. We have so much fun.
I'm so excited for the third 3 men and a.
We just did that one. We just did it last week. We called our episode "Roy is good with his hands." I think you're gonna like it.
I haven't watched it yet. I think I DVR'd it and I was
not disappointed.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Do you watch Finding Mr. Christmas? So my daughters and I are just starting Finding Mr. Christmas.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my gosh. Well, we definitely got to make a time for you to come on to our podcast in the future. Maybe we'll do some chatting about Hallmark movies, and
my
we
gosh.
actually moved. We expanded. We used to do only Hallmark, but Hallmark's getting a little woke lately, so we've been expanding our offerings because there's.
Candace Cameron has and she does the movie like
she moved over to Great American Family, and they partner with Pure Flix, and they do a good. That's more of like the old school Hallmark content. New Hallmark's getting a little racier, but we still love it, and I love cheesy Christmas movies. If you listen to my political commentary, you might not get that about me.
I know. I'm glad that you bring that up because that's me too. Like I love Hallmark. I love Chris. I love to talk about pop culture. I loved movies, and now I find myself just watching old movies. Every once in a while, there's something and I have older kids, so I can take them to certain things, and it's a little woke. It's like, oh my gosh, they'll even say, oh mom, I know that's so woke. Like they didn't even need to have that in there. When your kids are younger, I get you have to be a lot more selective. But I love Hallmark. I love Christmas. It's my happy time. I hate when I don't like to get too. I even tried December, balance the politics with. I've got to tune it out. I'm watching my Hallmark now. It's
good.
A happy place. I'm not gonna.
That's why we love it. That's why, I mean, there's an element of poking fun at the cheesiness and the scripts and stuff. There's all of that. But underneath it all is just a great love and admiration for these movies, because there's always a happy ending in Christmas Land. There's never any hard feelings. You always get the ending you want. People get what they want.
Yeah,
they love each other and they're happy. Like, my gosh, it's just nice to tune into something where everybody gets what they want and everybody ends on a happy note.
Yes, and I know every once in a while I'll still cry all the time. The kids come down, I'm crying, and they're like, "Oh."
Sometimes too. So Three Wiser Men and a Boy. I legit had a teary moment.
Yes,
legitimately.
Yeah, legit. I will
you're gonna like that movie.
Oh, I'm excited.
I need you to watch it and then hit me up on X and let me know what you think. And I'll send you the link to our podcast. You can also listen to that later. But I want to know what you think. I think you're gonna love it. It was really good.
Yes, I know. I was setting my DVR for all the new ones. I went to the Hallmark store and I had the list. But then, and so we have the subscription, so we'll watch. But sometimes I just want to watch it live. And I walk in the door. I was at this conference in Chicago. As soon as I walk in, I'm like, turn on Hallmark. Mom's home.
I love it.
No sad things, all happy. And everyone laughs. It's like, oh my gosh, it's all hard.
Well, I love it. Yeah. Hey, well, I'm down for a good Hallmark movie anytime.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's nice to be happy, but this is exactly what I talk about. That I think sometimes people think if they're going to get involved politically, that's all it can get all consuming, but we talk about other things. So in your group, just make sure that you are prioritizing having some fun. I know Moms for Liberty, we have our Joyful Warrior Conference every year. And then we have town halls and different things. And if you have a chapter or you find one, they have meetings once a month. And I'm actually going to speak at one next week. Next week, I will be speaking at one, and it'll be really fun. It'll be at a restaurant, and it's like fellowship. You talk about the hard things, then you have some fellowship and good times too. That's what, when I was raised in church, it was like you went, you had the service, you were fed, all of that, but there was always fellowship. There was always community. And so you have to develop community. And that will sustain, that will keep the movement alive if people feel like these are my besties now, my friends, and you got to kind of keep that spirit, I think.
Yes, I do too as well. I have to say that I do have a hard out right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm actually past it.
Thank you for staying on and talking. Once we started talking Hallmark, then it was like, oh.
Girl, I know. Well, I had to stop myself. Don't get me started. Just go listen to the podcast. So I'll talk all day long about Hallmark. Maybe I'll just come back and we'll just talk about Hallmark.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there was a bunch of questions I didn't get to, so I definitely want you to come back and
Let's do it.
we'll talk some more,
I would
and
love
I'll tell you my thoughts about Hallmark then too. But Kira,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to, when you leave, I'm going to tell people where they can follow you. And is there what are your closing thoughts? What's your advice? And how can people know more about you?
Well, my advice is that now is the time for boldness and courage. I think we've got about 12 months to make a real difference in this country and make it notable enough that Americans feel motivated to go to the ballot box and continue with the Trump agenda. And it really is time to double down. I think it's not the season for peace, unfortunately. That being said, follow me everywhere. You can follow me on X at Real Kira Davis or Instagram at Just Kira Davis, JUST Kira Davis. You can find my podcast, Just Kira Davis, at Substack, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Buy my book, Drawing Lines, Why Conservatives Must Begin to Battle Fiercely in the Arena of Ideas. I think the best places, though, for you to hear more from me and know what I'm doing are YouTube, which is Just Kira Davis, and Substack, Just Kira Davis. All the stuff goes to all those respective places, and you can keep up with my columns. I've often got bylines in Daily Mail, New York Post, do a lot of work for the New York Post, so keep an eye open for me there. And I will send you, I'll send you the links for everything too when we get off.
Okay, thank you. And your column, Unsolicited Advice, is really funny too.
Oh, thank you. I love giving advice. I'm actually I'm going to record some more today because I got a juicy column that came across my desk.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and we definitely want to have you back. I think this is going to be really popular. So
I had such a good time. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Bye. That was such a great talk with Kira. So real quick, I am going to pull up a few things. As we discussed, she has a Substack where you can find unsolicited advice for people who didn't ask for any. It's really funny and good. It's good advice. It's funny and it's conservative. So I highly recommend it. We also discussed, I found like her Hallmark movie obsession that mirrors mine. Wow. So she has a podcast that is all about Christmas and Christmas movies. So you want something different, you want something fun, you want to take a break from the heaviness of politics, go to this YouTube channel, Kira Davis right here. And I know I'm planning on watching this. Now, then there's a Substack, Just Kira Davis, episodes, really good topics here, no kings, no sense. She has a straightforward style, 15-year veteran in media, mom, ran for school board, knows what she's talking about. She's fighting to save America. I highly suggest that you tune into her. Also, her book, Drawing Lines, I am ordering it right now. I think it's great to hear she has some very common sense solutions, why conservatives must begin to battle fiercely in the arena of ideas. This is someone who's been fighting gender ideology since before we had any idea what it was. She's got some great advice. And then don't forget to follow her on X. And I'm going to pull that up really fast. Her handle is simply at Kira Davis. I'm going to show you this really fast so we can. Here we go. At Kira Davis. Or at Real Kira Davis, sorry. At Real Kira Davis. You can see right here. So make sure you follow her on X, at Real Kira Davis. That's where I found her. That's where I saw that it was under 60 seconds and I was hooked. I loved what she had to say. I loved the passion with which she had to say it. thank you so much, Kira. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I look forward to having you again. We just started talking. Seriously, I had all of these questions and I didn't get to almost any of them because it was such a great conversation. So I look forward to having another one. Don't forget to learn more about Moms for Liberty at momsforliberty.org. You heard Kira. She has attended Moms for Liberty training events. She wanted to run for school board and she contacted and went to Moms for Liberty. And that's what we're known for. And that's what we're good at. Our YouTube channel at Moms for Liberty. And that's where you can find this episode. It will be on there within just 48 hours. So you can watch it again, share it, like it, and subscribe, please. So I hope this was enjoyable for you. It was a blast for me. And I look forward to our next conversations. My goodness, I have so many lined up. I'm like just struggling to schedule them all. And I'm going to talk to some people, like Jennifer Say. I'm going to be interviewing her next, but we're also going to talk to some folks you might not have heard of, and they are doing the Lord's work. They are fighting on the front lines. I want to amplify the voices of our mama bears and papa bears and our warriors. And I will continue to do that as Moms for Liberty is always trying to amplify the voices of not just our 130,000 members across this country, but our allies, our friends, that fight side by side with us. We want to amplify them. We are in it for the right reasons. This battle is going to require unity. It's going to require unity among conservatives. Yeah. So Kira has some food for thought for myself. Definitely, like she's been at this longer than I have, and so she's got some valuable insight, and I thank her for continuing to stay in this fight, even though sometimes you have to take a break after you do something big like run for school board. She comes back and she gives it 1,000%. And so grateful for you, Kira. All right, everyone, that's it for now.
For Liberty is standing up for parental rights across America. But now we're under attack.
Moms for Liberty made news this week by being labeled as extremist and anti-government.
Radical groups like the SPLC are trying to silence us. But we're not in this fight alone. Countless leaders from across the country have stood up to defend us and our mission.
The Southern Poverty Law Center decided to target Moms for Liberty. Let me say, Moms for Liberty, they are phenomenal women. They are moms who are standing up for their kids.
They have fought for all of our children, and because they are effective, the Southern Poverty Law Center is trying to hurt them.
That's a deliberate attempt to destroy someone's life.
Moms for Liberty does amazing work. The parents movement in America is extremely important.
We are parents. We are parents that care about our kids. We are parents that want transparency in the classroom.
Moms for Liberty, you exhibit something that actually the CEOs of the biggest companies in this country do not, which is courage.
Thank you for standing with us to protect our children's future.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Is that working? Yeah. I decided I was going to play Sporty Spice to Tina's Posh Spice. So you'll forgive me for wearing our own gear head to toe and presenting a little bit casual. I have notes. So I am really happy to be here with you guys today for the second year in a row. This is my favorite place to be. I'll give you a little bit of a background about myself, and then I'll get going. We have an exciting panel for you today. So I am Jen Say. I was an elite gymnast as a child. I was a 7-year national team member and the 1986 national champion. I am very proud of my athletic achievements. Thank you. I started sports just 2 years. I started gymnastics 2 years after Title IX passed. I'm old. I started in 1974. I am so grateful for the passage of Title IX. I would not be the person that I am today without sports, without the resilience, perseverance. That's where I learned how to get up when I fall down, and I have fallen down a lot in the last 5 or so years. So thankfully, I had sports to teach me that. Title IX is at risk, as you all know, and we're going to talk to some young women who are pushing back. Despite the successes I had in gymnastics, it is a really abusive sport. You guys probably know this. That all got exposed with the case of Larry Nassar. Well, I was the first athlete to write about abuse in gymnastics back in 2008. And that was tough. That was tough. It's not easy to go first, as you all know. And I will tell you, just a few months ago, so I wrote that book in 2008. It was a memoir about the abuse I experienced in my sport, about my coaches. A few months ago, my coach was finally banned from the sport of gymnastics. So it takes USA Gymnastics a long time to get to it, and actually they were forced to do it by something called the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. But that's 17 years after I wrote about it. You must persevere. Do not give up. Do not give up. This is not going to be easy. We've had some wins, but you got to keep your eyes on the prize. It took 17 years, and I will tell you this, it was worth it. It was worth the fight because not another child will have to be coached by that man. So after I left gymnastics, I went into fashion. I was a fashion executive for many years. Most of you know, probably I got myself good and canceled for standing up for the opening of schools during COVID. I found myself completely ousted from corporate America, and that is how I decided to start my own brand, XXXY Athletics. We're the only brand standing up for the protection of female athletes in women's sports and standing up for fair competition, because every girl deserves to have what I had as a young athlete. The name itself, XXXY, is a statement of material reality. There are two sexes. That's it. If you're a boy, compete in boys. It's not complicated. Who needs a hat? I have one to give away. Okay, I got a bad arm. I got a lot of injuries in gymnastics. I'm going to throw it. It might land right here, right in front. Oh, I did okay. I did okay. That wasn't too bad. I could never throw. I didn't play any ball sports. Anyway, people ask me all the time, why were kids and free speech the hill you were willing to die on? Because I really did mess up my own career trajectory, although I'm having more fun now. And I look them right in the eye and I say, if you are not willing to die on a hill for truth, free speech, and children, you don't even have a hill. So I know everybody here does. I know you all do, and that's why you guys are here in this room today. We're making progress. There was an executive order signed in February to protect women's sports. You guys know that. I was proudly in the room, standing right behind the president. He handed me his papers when he was done. But I want to just remind us, and we heard from him earlier, we have made so much progress, but there is a long way to go. An executive order operates with the force of law, but it is not legislation. We need legislation. There is no federal legislation. In 25 states across the country, blue states, there are still boys competing in girls' sports. In defiance of the executive order. We need legislation in all of those states. I'm the chairperson for a ballot initiative in Colorado. We need legislation in Colorado. But I believe in the power of the culture, first and foremost. Legislation and politics are downstream from culture. And we, unfortunately, sort of ceded that cultural battle a while ago, and we need to wrest it back with the full force it was taken from us. And that's why I think this brand plays a role, because not everybody wants to stand up at a school board meeting, but everybody can wear a t-shirt at their daughter's soccer game. And every time you do, somebody will lean in. It's going to move the Overton window. Someone will lean in. Someone you might not expect will lean in and say to you, I agree with you. And then they'll get a t-shirt. And then suddenly, the silent majority isn't so silent anymore. We need to make our views known. And once the majority, there's 80% of us, speaks up, the laws will change, I promise you. So that's what I do. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legislator, I'm not a politician. I believe in driving cultural change, and that's why I started this brand. But I think it's going to be the unknown young athletes across the country who make a difference in the end. You know who put Larry Nassar in jail? Do you guys know? Yeah, it wasn't the famous ones, though. I mean, I love them, but that's not who it was. It was an army of survivors. There were 500 victims, the ones who came forward first, the ones who testified, the ones who made victim impact statements at his trial were unknown young gymnasts from across the country. They are the army of survivors. That's what they call themselves. And I want to tell you, on this issue of protecting girls' sports, that's who it's going to be. It's going to be an army of high school girls from across the country. Not a single professional athlete that is currently competing, not a single Olympic level athlete that is currently competing has spoken up. Not one. You think we're done? We are not done. Not a.
The Epstein.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls?
Yet when we need you most, you remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity,
Our sports,
Our spaces,
men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals,
trophies,
and our future.
and it's not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to
Come before ours. See, with a big platform,
Comes an even bigger responsibility.
You have a chance to do the right thing, not just do the easy thing. So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike,
So we're asking you, Nike.
as the biggest voice in all of sports,
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
will you stand up for me? Will you?
Will you?
Will you just do it?